It's time to go again at the Sachsenring as MotoE readies to go under starters orders for race 2. With scorching temperatures and sunny skies now turning to wind and dark clouds, is there yet another twist that awaits in the 2024 title chase? It's all beginning to get rather tense in the world of MotoE as we're ready for one final Sachsenring installment. It's go time for MotoE. And welcome to what is a rather different complexion up in the sky above the Sachsenring circuit here in Germany. Certainly the scorching temperatures that we had just before the start of the MotoGP sprint have now dissipated. I mean, it's still fairly warm here at the Sachsenring. You can see there 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 27 degrees Celsius, but it's muggy and the wind is blowing in. It really is strong out there. I can see some flags just outside the commentary box and they are certainly blowing strongly indeed. You can see there even, is that rain falling off in the distance. Well, hopefully it stays away from us here at the Sachsenring as we've only got 10 laps of racing to do here in MotoE. So a nice short race and hopefully we can squeeze it in before a little bit of a downpour. Looks like it might just be happening on the horizon here this afternoon on Saturday. So it's Jack Horst here and alongside me once again is Neil Morrison in the commentary box, and down in pit lane and on on the grid we do have Elliot York once again as we go racing here in race 2. And of course, if you joined us earlier in race 1, you know that there was some incidents that certainly we'll go through as we talk through this grid. But firstly, I think we can go down to chat to Kevin Zaccone, one of the riders that's suffering here a little bit this weekend. He's down with Elliot.
Yeah, it certainly is. Kevin, just ahead of this one, how are you feeling? Obviously, your crash in qualifying yesterday left you felt a little bit battered and bruised. How are you feeling?
Yes, today I'm not in my best condition. I had also a lot of pain, but we are ready, we are fit, and it's important to take the maximum point that we can before I do a great race, much better than my expectative. So now I try to do a little bit more and to fight the maximum I possible.
Good luck, Kevin.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Elliot. Thanks as well to Kevin Zaccone. He now sits third in the World Championship after a tough race 1. He managed to grit his teeth and come home in 8th position. And if we're looking for favourites for this outing, you have to say the pole sitter, Alessandro Zaccone, who managed to rack up his 3rd straight pole position yesterday. He will be a chief contender. He finished 2nd in the race earlier today, just behind Hector Garzo, but Zaccone was looking pretty strong, and over a full race distance you wonder whether he might have the edge.
Here's Oscar Gutierrez then, of course, was the rider that was caught up in that incident at the first start of race 1 and yeah, received those 2 long lap penalties for it, and then the additional 2 long lap penalties with that jump start, and then unfortunately it all went, well, a bit of a disaster class in the long lap penalty lane on that first one. There you can see Eric Granado going down the road once again, and also Armando Pontone, who was up and okay after the crash. But once again, we have to highlight the excellent riding there from Mattia Casadei to avoid his stricken teammate as he went sliding across the road. And unfortunately, we don't have Eric in this race. Yeah, he's been ruled out of this one, declared unfit. And the LCRE team did deliver an update on Twitter saying that Eric Granado has been taken to the hospital in Chemnitz. The results of the CT scan have revealed that there is a small head contusion and he will stay under observation there for 48 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. So get well soon, Eric. We hope to see you back at the next MotoE race, which will be at the Red Bull Ring in Austria midway through August. So a bit of time for Eric to heal up, and hopefully he's not in too much discomfort in hospital currently. So yeah, hope to see Eric Granado back on the grid soon. We're going to pass down to Elliot, who's on the grid with a bit of a weather update. Elliot, please don't tell me it's raining.
No, it's not quite raining yet, but those clouds that you've potentially seen on your screens that are coming over sort of turns 13 and 12 at the back of the circuit. The wind is coming that way as well. Thankfully the wind isn't that strong at the minute, but it's definitely 100% raining in the background. I can see actually over the hills in the back it's already raining over there, and I've seen a couple of lightning bolts as well, so it's not looking too promising at this moment in time. So hopefully we can get this race underway and completed before any rain does come, but it isn't looking good. And as I say that, the moment I've just said that, I have just felt a drop of rain on my hand, so hopefully it's just a tiny bit for now, but yes, it's not looking good.
Well, we've had quite a weekend of it in MotoE here at the Sachsenring. A few delays in qualifying, and yep, Elliot just in our headset telling us that it is starting to rain now. As Nicholas Spinelli just taking cover under an umbrella.
I did indeed, sorry to just butt in there, Neil, I did indeed just see a lightning bolt off in the distance as well. So yeah, this storm looks like it's rolling in, and indeed actually there's a couple of raindrops falling down our commentary box window now as well. We haven't got much luck this weekend, have we, Neil?
Yeah, we haven't, exactly. And this will be a bit of a step into the unknown. We're obviously not sure whether it's going to be heavy rain, a light shower. Will it be enough for the track to be fully wet? Will they have to fit wet tyres? But yeah, a bit of a curveball being thrown here right at the end of Saturday's running at the Sachsenring. And there you have it, evidence from our cameras that it is indeed raining out there. Unfortunately, I'm guessing there might be a slight delay to proceedings here on the grid.
Yeah.
The umbrellas are up in the grandstands anyway.
They're certainly keeping themselves entertained on the big screen there. And yeah, this is going to be an interesting one because, of course, we are meant to go racing in just about 3 minutes' time, but you can see everyone in the grandstands there taking cover from this rain, applying their ponchos, and there you see it then. Race has been delayed due to weather conditions. We don't know at the moment what that delay is going to mean in terms of time. Hopefully we'll find out shortly. So the rain coming down here then. This is such a tricky situation for the riders, Neil. You know, you get into that frame of mind, ready to go racing, do whatever rituals you may have, and final chat with the crew chiefs just to talk about if any setting changes, last minute things, and then all of a sudden it's a full stop, and you've got to kind of take yourself out of that zone and just readapt to, well, waiting in the unknown sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see it's not just raining down there, but the wind does look like it's picked up as well. A few people on the grid having a real difficulty keeping those umbrellas completely upright and straight. As Matteo Ferrari is currently being informed of the situation. Elliot, I think you have an update for us.
Yeah, so it sounds like we're going to get a sighting lap in at 10 past, so that's in around about 3 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes. They're going to get given a sighting lap as things stand. That could change, obviously, in the next couple of minutes, depending on what the weather does. It's still raining, albeit lightly at the minute, but they're going to get one sighting lap and then reduced race distance to 1 lap. One lap reduced race distance, sorry, we're not having a 1 lap race. So yeah, that's the update as things stand, but yeah, these weather conditions are worsening by the minute.
Yeah, we can actually hear it there, I think, from your microphone, Elliot. Just the wind that is kind of picking up on the start-finish straight. So changes being made then on the grid here to Mattia Casadei's setup. And frantic work down there for the LCR team. I think it is properly raining now on the grid.
So let's see what's going to happen then. Of course, for the mechanics now, as you can see, it's all hands on deck, switching in different tyres. Most likely that's a set of wets that are going in, and we'll see exactly what's going on. I think Elliot's actually just got some extra info for us. What do you got down there, El?
Yeah, the team's just been told to get off the grid, so we're just going to clear the grid now. Obviously, the rain has really started coming down now quite heavily, and obviously the riders and teams are being told to get off the grid. Not sure what that means in terms of when we're going to get a new race start, but the weather conditions, as you can probably hear from the mic and see on your TV screens, really starting to worsen now. The rain's coming really heavily, the wind has picked up, and those rain clouds that were there have really started to cover us now in pit lane especially. And like I say, I did see lightning bolts in the background, so yeah, we'll see what happens from here. But as you can probably see from your TV screens, the riders and teams are being asked to leave the grid.
Yeah, thanks very much. Well, that paints quite a picture, doesn't it? The grid there here at the Sachsenring, and it is chucking it down. So yeah, there's no point even pretending that there might be some debate about what tyres to choose or what it might be like on a sighting lap. It looks like we're going to have to clear the grid because maybe a storm is coming here. Yeah.
Sorry, I just have to say, Neil, this situation does make me chuckle slightly, purely for the fact that Elliot York, our lovable pit lane reporter, before going out of the media centre to come down here, he actually asked the question of whether he should take a raincoat with him, and I don't think he did, to be honest. I'm not 100% sure, but if he hasn't, it's a shocker of a decision from Elliot York, and he's getting a bit wet right now.
Unfortunately for you guys in the commentary box, I did decide to come out in a rain jacket.
Disaster.
I know that's going to disappoint you guys and people watching at home, etc., but I did make the right decision and bring a rain jacket with me. And as you might have just seen on TV screens, there's a massive lightning bolt just appeared over the circuit. So, yeah, not sure what's going to happen here, guys. Obviously, start delayed, and I'll try and bring you as much info as I can when I get it.
Yeah, I think a certain someone might have advised you to take your jacket with you down to the grid, Elliot, because yeah, you just never know, do you, when you go to a motorcycle race. That's one thing I learned growing up. You have to be prepared for all conditions. And while it looked like the absolute midst of the German summer earlier this afternoon, we've appeared to go 180 degrees, and it looks like everything is closed in. You can see from the windscreen there on the safety car that it's raining fairly steadily. I mean, it doesn't look as though the track is too wet. I mean, we're not talking about completely torrential rain here, but certainly enough to give these MotoE riders something to think about. I guess another thing that we have to consider, Jack, is the fact that there hasn't been any proper full wet running all weekend.
No, that's one thing, as you do say. They haven't really had any proper wet running. I mean, you can see there just from that shot how it's pretty much raining sideways here at the Sachsenring. If it does stop now, and if this is only a short downpour, I mean, I'm talking very optimistically here, because I'm looking out the commentary box window and it's just grey everywhere. So I'm not sure this is going to stop quickly. But of course, in practice one on Friday morning, they did have some wet track time, but it was more just kind of damp and greasy. Even some of the riders went out on slicks, and actually by the end of the session, they were starting to make them work. So yeah, talking of being prepared for all conditions, they have to be prepared for all conditions, but in terms of experience of the Sachsenring circuit in the wet this weekend, they're definitely not prepared. So this is, yeah, a tricky one to call in terms of what setup you should go for these mechanics and riders out there in pit lane now.
Yeah, it could be a total lottery, couldn't it? With riders really having to take a step into the unknown. Also with the settings, as you were just saying now, Jack, I'm glad to say that a good majority of the fans in the grandstands have come prepared with their ponchos.
That poor lady's getting absolutely battered by the wind there. Yeah, not good. Yeah,
but you've got to love their enthusiasm, sticking it out despite the weather conditions. And I mean, even if you had showed me this picture an hour ago, I would have said, oh, that's another year at the Sachsenring. Yeah. Certainly couldn't be this weekend, but well, it just goes to show that you can never be quite too sure in this part of the world. Alessandro Zaccone, yep, we're feeling pretty much the same as you.
Yeah, absolutely, echo those sentiments. Looking rather glum is Ali Zac there as he stands and looks to the skies, waiting to see exactly what's going to happen. We still don't have any update in terms of time schedule or what exactly is going to go on with this MotoE Race 2. Of course, we'll bring that as soon as we do say. Elliot's just telling us in our ear that it is at least a 10-minute delay, which I think is not much surprise to anyone. Mattia Casadei keeping the rain off his hair there, keeping the hairdo all nice and tucked under the safety of that RI helmet. So good job there from Mattia, but
he's got his priorities sorted.
He certainly does, yeah. Just making sure the mechanics are doing all their work as well. I think they were just changing the rear shock there, putting something a little bit softer in to give him a bit more grip in the wet conditions, because yeah, I mean, this race, if it does get underway, and when it does get underway, is going to be proper wet. So yeah, full change in terms of the settings for these guys now.
Yeah, we had the rain interrupt. I think it was qualifying at the Italian Grand Prix towards the end of Q1, but I don't think it ever got heavy enough to be a full wet qualifying in Q2. So it's not like we've had a load of wet weather experience for the MotoE field this year. I think quite a bit of pre-season testing at Portimao was in wet conditions, much to the frustration of the names in this paddock. But yeah, it's not like we've got a massive sort of base of experience to go off to judge in the race that's going to be coming up, because assuming it will be in full wet conditions, judging by the severity of the rain at the moment.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky one. I mean, the wet weather pre-season testing was one thing that kind of Chaz Davies spoke about at the start of the year. Of course, Chaz, brand new to the MotoE World Championship, coming in as a rookie and not really knowing the bike too well. Of course, he did help to develop it partially with Ducati. But yeah, when he said about the testing, it was kind of, well, the conditions were wet and then they were drying and it didn't really make for good testing, and then that was one of the things that kind of put him on the back foot coming into the year. So I'm sure that Chaz, looking at these conditions, is thinking, not again. But at least, as Neil says, we haven't really had too many wet weather racing scenarios this year. And a bit of a question mark now as well, particularly for how Hector Garzo is going to go. Just vaulted himself into the championship lead after the first race, and we keep saying, does anyone want to win this championship? Well, yeah, what happens now? Yeah, exactly, because the top three in the championship coming into this weekend had stinkers, I guess you could say, in race one. Mattia Casadei copped a long lap penalty for crashing under a yellow flag in Q2 yesterday. He managed to come home in 9th after that long lap. Kevin Zanoni obviously banged himself up in Q2 and was riding injured in race one. He came home in 8th, which was, I guess, a decent performance considering his condition. And then Oscar Gutierrez, I think we have to say, probably the most eventful MotoE race that any MotoE rider has ever endured in the history of the class, going right the way back to 2019. In case you missed it, Gutierrez, well, had a collision with Eric Granado, was given a long lap penalty for that, 2 long lap penalties, sorry, for that collision, and then he jumped to start, which meant he had 2 more long lap penalties. And because we had a shortened race, it was shortened from 10 laps to 5. He had to do 4 penalties in 5 laps, but when he was doing the first of those, he crashed in the long lap penalty lane. Yeah, which is it's quite an array of achievements in a short space of time, you would have to say. Yeah, definitely. I don't think a rider will have ever had a day that eventful, as you do say, in the MotoE World Championship. Actually, just out the window, the safety car's just gone flying past on the front straight here, just checking the conditions. But yeah, not much of a race to write home about for Oscar. Yeah, 4 long lap penalties. I can't remember another time in my life watching motorcycle racing that I've ever seen a rider get 4 long lap penalties in one race. I'm sure there's some sort of thing there, but I don't know, maybe you know? Yeah, I'm just thinking that at least Fermin Aldeguer is not the kind of embarrassed one as the lone rider that's crashed out when trying to take his long lap. So yeah, Oscar Gutierrez, I guess this is a step into the unknown for him as well, starting from the front row for the first time this year. And I think we'll go back down to the grid where Elliot is currently doing a bit of digging as to what is going on.
Yeah, so just chatting to some of the guys down here, and basically the issue is, obviously we can ride in the rain, we have wet tyres to use, but the problem is because it's an electrical thunderstorm, that's causing obviously a danger to the riders and the marshals, etc. So as I said earlier, there's going to be at least a 10-minute delay. The guys down here, the IRTA officials, haven't had an update since then, so no news on that front. But basically why all the riders and teams have parked up under the garages, under the little bridge basically that's protecting us a little bit from the rain, not too much but a little bit at least, is because it's a thunderstorm. The rain, to be honest, isn't too bad. We'd obviously have to use wet weather tyres. The wind's died down now as well, and basically it's because it's a thunderstorm. It poses obviously a danger to the riders and the marshals out there. So I'll continue to do some more digging. I'll try and get some riders for you as well, gents. But yeah, I think we're going to have another at least 10 minutes of sort of waiting around, waiting for info. And yeah, as I say, I'll bring as much info as I can to you guys in the box.
Yeah, thanks very much, Elliot. Your efforts always appreciated. I seem to remember this happening in Kota a few years ago in Austin on maybe the Friday morning, where I think we maybe had to cancel 1 or 2 sessions because there was quite a bit of lightning, and obviously it was unsafe, not just for anyone going out on track, but also the marshals around the track as well, who had to take shelter. So safety, always the utmost priority when we go racing for the team and the personnel around the track. It sounds like we have some thunder in the background, so it could be a decent little delay here. If yeah, what Elliot is telling us is anything to go by. So yeah, let's embrace it. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, that weather radar that Lucas Tulovic showed us looked quite extensive in terms of the storm that was rolling over us at the moment. So yeah, appreciate that one, Lucas. Thank you very much. Very helpful, giving us a visual representation up here in the commentary box. And yeah, cheers as well, El, for letting us know about that. I have to say though, even though you say
hearing thunder. I haven't seen a crack of lightning in quite some time now, actually. So hopefully, Elliot's just told me there was one just then. So I'm, yeah, talking nonsense. Anyway.
I don't like to prove you wrong, Jack. Might be a line there. But yeah, massive crack of lightning. Just sort of, to be fair, from your commentary box view, you probably wouldn't have seen it. It's sort of towards the final corner and over that way. But yeah, massive bolt of lightning just flashed down. So, and as I speak, you may be able to hear it, a massive crack of thunder as well. So yeah, conditions from 2 minutes ago have unfortunately worsened.
All right, thanks very much, Elliot. 500cc legend Randy Mamola is in the paddock here this weekend. That's his son Dakota, who works for the LCR Honda racing team. His rider Mattia Casadei actually lost the championship lead in race 1 for the first time in a couple of rounds. Casadei now sits 7 points back of Hector Garzo. Kevin Snoney 1 point further back. Randy obviously does some work for Monster.
Still travels to pretty much most races, doesn't he, Randy? Absolutely loves it in the paddock, always a bit of a joker. He's a good guy, is Randy, and yeah, he really does still just love coming to the paddock and watching motorcycle racing. You see him every single place that we go to, and yeah, why not? He's got plenty of time to come here and do some work for the people that he represents, so yeah, good on him, good on Randy.
Yep, absolutely. We've been told that a decision is coming soon on what we're going to do, whether we'll be racing in the coming minutes or whether it will be a delay or whatever's going to happen. So we will of course keep you posted, and at least the drivers of the safety car are having some fun out there, getting the BMW nicely out of shape as it comes around turn 6 and 7.
Yeah, hopefully he just doesn't go a little bit too out of shape and drop it down there. So we can go back down to Elliot. I believe he's got Jordi Torres down there just to give us a feel for how Jordi's feeling about these conditions at the minute. Down to you, El.
Yeah, I'm down here with Jordi Torres. Jordi, conditions like this just before the grid, how does that make you feel as a rider having to come off the grid just before a race?
Yeah, this is this kind of weather maybe we can expect, because today was very, very hot, and for sure at the final of the day comes something strange, because always here in Sachsenring have a weekend clean like this is because come something heaviest. But yes, I'm not scared about riding in this condition, because we have a very good tires in a wet conditions. And also it's enjoyable in this situation. Also it's a safety bike. And yes, I think that we can show also a good show during the races in this kind of condition, because the bikes were good, the tires work very, very well, the wet tires. And we'll see what happens here, but for sure I'm not scared, and also I am very, very agree with this kind of difficulties.
How are you feeling this weekend? Obviously in Assen we saw you sort of return to form. It's been a trickier than expected year for you so far. Here in Assen though, you've looked like sort of back to your best. How are you feeling this weekend?
Yeah, I feel good, and I feel also very fast on the bike, but always I feeling too slow on the straights, also on the acceleration, and we try. Our focus is always concentrated about this, no? Because I feel like a cow on the straights, and it's not allowed to overtake anybody on the straight. And also, if I am in a streetly, how is the name? Slip train, sorry. I don't get nothing. Always I lose on the straights, and we'll see what happens. For sure, this kind of track that from Assen that don't have too much straight, and also here that not have a straight, is our best condition in the calendar this year. But we'll see. You know, we try to do 100%, but sometimes during your career happens things like this, no? That you don't feel to performance, and yeah, we need to search different ways to be on the top always.
Has that been the main difference from the last year's model to this year's Ducati?
Yeah, I feel like this, that less speed on the straight, because I feel very well with my mechanic, with the setup also. I can enter very fast, the good speed in the middle of the corner are very good. Also, when on the acceleration, the pickup of the bike, still like the last year, But yes, I feel like this, that run less than the last year, because we can compare and we feel this.
Jordi, thanks for talking to us. Hopefully we get a race sooner rather than later, and hopefully in better conditions than this. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Elliot. Thanks as well to Jordi Torres, double World Cup winner in the MotoE series. It was a World Cup, of course, in the years that Jordi won it. Now a World Championship, and it's not looking too hot when we look down there, is it? Also a couple of flashes, a couple of bolts of lightning, I think we saw on the footage there when we were speaking to Jordi. So let's see if this footage passes. Here is a replay of one such bolt. That's looking up from turn 2 at turn 1. So obviously when conditions are like this, it is certainly not safe to be on track. Not safe for the marshals to be out there either. And yeah, we're going to have to wait it out here, I think.
Yeah, so I think we do have just further delays here as this storm does roll in, as Neil says, and as you saw on the footage there. Yeah, some really big cracks of lightning here in the last handful of minutes, and it seems that it's only coming closer to the circuit and maybe passing over us. So if it was 10 minutes ago kind of off in the distance, now it's around here. Hopefully in 10 minutes time it will be clearing off out the other direction and we can get a MotoE race underway, because as you saw as well from some of the track shots there, the track actually isn't too bad. There's not any really standing water. There was maybe a tiny bit just down by the white lines and the curbs on the inside, but the actual main track surface itself looks pretty good. And I'm sure that with the Michelin MotoE tyres that we have here, the wet tyres, which everyone says are incredible in the wet, by the way, much more grip than you would perhaps expect. Yeah, I'm sure that track conditions should be pretty good for us if we do get to go racing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Remy Gardner a few years ago when he was using the Michelin wets for the first time, was saying, yeah, you can actually get your elbow down with them, which maybe was not the case with other types of wet tyres which he had used in his career. So the grip offered up by the Michelins is really quite something. As we just saw Armando Pontoni there on the screens, he had a crash. Obviously, he was caught up in the mayhem of the pack. A lot of riders were braking and trying to make sure they were avoiding Eric Granado as he skidded basically from the left-hand side of the track over across to the right at turn 2. And Pontoni, I think, he clipped the back of another bike and ended up down as well, but thankfully he was okay.
Yeah, that was unfortunately Armando's first non-score, or non-finish, I should say, of the year. He's done a pretty good job consistently picking up little chunks of points here and there. You know, he's had a couple of top 10s, and yeah, just constantly always on the fringes of the points, or occasionally just missing out in 16th place. But yeah, Armando doing a decent job in his rookie season, because it has been hard work for both Armando and Chaz joining this MotoE World Championship this year. And I mean, it always is, regardless of who you are. We see Massimo Roccoli saying on Thursday to us in the Inside the E-Paddock show that, yeah, it's tough work in the MotoE World Championship, and he knows just how fast all these riders are.
Yeah, absolutely. Quite an interesting story with how that Aruba Cloud MotoE racing team came about. They've obviously put a little bit of money behind Michele Pirro in years gone by as Ducati wildcards, maybe a couple of times a year that we would see Michele making an appearance. And then obviously with the new concessions regulations for MotoGP in 2024, Ducati being where they are, the current position of strength at which they're operating, they no longer can have wildcard showings. So the owner behind that Aruba Cloud team decided, hey, I still want to spend some money on racing, so what can I do? And I think Ducati said, well, why not enter into MotoE? So that's how it came about.
Yeah, I like that. You know, you got a little bit of cash that you can use to kind of use essentially on a hobby for when you've got that much money. And if motorcycle racing is your hobby and your passion, it's great to see, you know, people that can then go and fund these teams to race in World Championships, because essentially that's what gets the job done and allows us to have these World Championships. People willing to go for it with their cash and allow some riders to have a bit of fun.
Yeah, we're just hearing that Race Direction have reported back after their outings in the safety car that track conditions aren't so bad. It's not the fact that it's raining and it's wet out there that is of concern. It's the fact that the wind is pretty high, and also the lightning as well is a concern. And it looks as though we're going to wait it out for maybe another 8 to 10 minutes before coming to a decision. We could well start as a wet race, but I guess if the lightning persists, then maybe we won't be able to do that. So let's hang around here and see what exactly goes on. Elliot, if you have something to add to that?
Yeah, so basically the info you've just shared is exactly correct, obviously. As I'm just overhearing, the guys down here are just telling Chaz Davies' team there's going to be a decision in 15 minutes. Basically, the issue is the marshals aren't on their posts, so no matter what happens from here, there's going to be a 10-minute delay. And as I'm just saying now, that potentially 15 minutes, and then there's going to come to a decision as to whether maybe we race or not. Conditions aren't horrendous. It's raining pretty heavily in pit lane and on the front straight. Not sure about the rest of the circuit, but it is brightening up where the rain is coming from. So that's a little bit of good news. But yeah, basically the issue is, like you say, Neil, the lightning is causing the delays, massive bolt again above us here at the circuit, and the marshals aren't on their post, so obviously they need some time to get everyone in station and get ready for the race ahead. So yeah, that's the update for now. At least another 10 minutes, but as I say, I overheard some people saying potentially 15 minutes, and then they'll come to a decision. So yeah, a little bit of waiting to do, unfortunately.
Yeah, thanks for the info, El, and we can see on our screens as well that race delayed due to weather conditions. Further information at 4:45 local time, well, that is in around 13 or so minutes. So about 13 more minutes of story time with me and Neil Morrison. I'm sure you're all thrilled to be having that one with us here in the MotoE commentary box, as we are very much delayed now with MotoE Race 2, but of course for obvious reasons. So many things to consider, as Elliot says, there with the marshals being taken off their posts, and also, you know, so many things with the helicopter ambulance and all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, good to see that someone's stuck on a bit of AC/DC to try and keep the fans that have stuck around entertained, us entertained as well, I guess, and maybe you at home entertained. Decent soundtrack, and I think the kind of music you would expect to hear in this part of the world, where they they love racing, and you kind of, a lot of fans show up in leather jackets, and it's quite old school, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. This sort of genre of music, absolutely adored in this part of the world. I thought you were going to give it the full Ali McCoist then, Neil, when the AC/DC came on. I thought you were going to give it the full, it can be AC/DC, but maybe not. But yeah, certainly enjoying the tunes anyway. I hope you are at home. And to be honest, one of the best things you could do is, while we're waiting for this race 2 to go along, if we've got around 13 minutes or so, you could actually maybe perhaps go back and recap on race 1 if you missed it earlier, and see exactly what happened, while me and Neil waffle away. We'll be sure to give you a shout when things do start moving here.
Absolutely, yeah, because the race winning time set by Hector Garzo was 7 minutes and 14 seconds, which
Beautiful.
I think is probably the shortest MotoE race that we've ever had on record. Just 5 laps around this pretty short Sachsenring circuit, cut down to half distance, of course. And we have such a busy schedule on Saturday, obviously trying to ensure that everything else runs roughly on time. We had to make those changes to the race distance in race 1. We've got a bit of a larger window here on Saturday afternoon, evening time. I'm sure Jack is just thinking, as long as we're finished up by 6 p.m. when the mighty England are playing, then all will be well with the world. So I'm sure Race Direction will be considering that as well, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, that reminds me, we need to follow up with our good friend Jack Appleyard, who's meant to be sourcing us a location to watch the game in the paddock. So, Jack, if you're listening, send us a message on WhatsApp and let us know where we're going to watch it at the conclusion of this MotoE races. Hopefully we do get underway. I tell you who I feel sorry for, though, Neil. The poor old Northern Talent Cup riders. They're meant to be going after us. They could be extremely late if they do get on after us.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel pretty sorry for the likes of Hector Garzo, Alessandro Zaccone as well, because I'm not saying they were guaranteed a good result in race 2, but they certainly were well placed to take advantage of maybe some misfortune with a couple of their other title contenders. The fact that we'll be going, or we could be going racing in very wet conditions, means that yeah, it's a bit of a step into the unknown, a bit of a lottery. And just looking at our MotoE field here, Jack, I'm thinking of a couple of known quantities in wet conditions. I mean, Matteo Ferrari is a pretty handy wet weather rider. He's shown that in years gone by. I'm also looking at Andrea Mantovani as well, who had a good wet weather performance at Mugello last year, I seem to recall.
Yeah, absolutely. One other name is, of course, Kevin Manfredi. Now, it's a little bit of a difficult one for him to go well here in race 2 because he is riding injured still with that shoulder. But the only 2 podiums he's had have been in wet weather. So, yeah, Kevin Manfredi, a bit of a wet weather specialist.
Yeah, that's a good shot. Chaz Davies is a pretty good wet weather rider as well, if my memory serves. A couple of great performances back in his 250cc days, as well as countless ones in World Superbike. So yeah, I think we can maybe pass down to Chaz Davies, who's with Elliot in pit lane.
Yeah, it certainly is. Just waiting for him. He's just got meeting a fan and taking a selfie at the moment in pit lane. Obviously, a very popular rider is Chaz Davies, so we'll try and put in when we can. Chaz, not ideal conditions, to say the least. Not ideal to, yeah, heading into race 2. What's this do to a rider's thoughts? You're obviously very experienced yourself, maybe experienced this a few times in your career. What does this do to a rider pre-race?
Yeah, just kind of like don't get too caught up in it, because it can be, you don't never know how long these delays are going to be. So, you know, it's all very well keeping your head in the game, but I think sometimes you can, if this delay goes on for an hour, you know, you can kind of burn yourself out. So it's better just to relax, take it as it comes, and you know, keep an eye on them clouds and see if it looks like it's lifting a little bit in the distance, but it doesn't look, well, it looks like there's possibly something else behind it. So it's never easy, these kind of delays, but yeah, that's what you know, experience, I guess, helps.
We spoke to you saying just ahead of qualifying, or during the red flag in qualifying, you said you're feeling a little bit better. How was race 1 earlier on?
Yeah, it was so. I mean, it got away okay, and then just struggled a little bit. And this long left, basically, as soon as you get out of turn 3 and put it on the left-hand side of the tyre, there's so much turning that you have to do with just a little bit of throttle. You know, you gas it up out of 3, get your momentum, and then you basically maintain that momentum all the way through 4, 5, 6. But it means that you need to have a bike that kind of turns well and turns naturally, and that for me has been a bit difficult so far. I mean, having not been here for a bit, there's been a bit missing on my side for sure with like just connecting the dots, and here you really need to connect all these corners up, because one flows into the next is very tricky. But also from the setup side, I think there's probably a few tricks here which experience will teach you, you know, exactly probably what you need to do. But that's not our situation. We're fresh here as a team, and I'm fresh here as a rider. So, but still, lovely to ride the Sachsenring. Very enjoyable. Love the track. It's unique, and yeah, happy to be here.
different is it on a MotoE bike compared to, obviously it was a long time ago you raced, it's probably hard to remember exactly what it feels like, but how different, maybe compared to the listeners at home, for like a MotoE bike compared to like a super bike, how different is it to ride tracks like Assen and the Sachsenring and the others we go to?
Yeah, it's obviously it's very different. The two key things are the weight, and then kind of how the other thing, sorry, the key thing is the tyres, but the weight and the tyres for me are the two biggest changes here. The weight's one of those things you kind of learn to work with it and use the bike. You need to use this bike in where it's sort of where it performs best, which is not really the braking area. You've got 225 kilos to try and stop, so it's better to like give it 98% in the braking area, but really let the thing run through the middle of the corner, because the Michelins do provide a lot of edge grip, so you can do that, and the bike likes to be, you know, used in that area. But that's probably the trickiest thing for me. I'm riding against guys that have kind of stayed in and around using smaller bikes, or stayed with 600s and whatnot in their career, or even smaller Moto2 and whatnot. But so for me, it's a huge adaptation with the tyres and also the riding style. It's two things in one, which it's not a lot. Like in Assen, I was pretty close. I felt like I could do 99% of what most of the others could, but it's just those little details where 15 years of riding in one way is quite difficult to forget. So no, but at the same time, it's an interesting challenge. Like I have really enjoyed it, despite, you know, I don't enjoy looking at the TV and seeing myself down the order, but I have enjoyed it. It's a challenge of testing myself at, you know, at this sort of stage in my life and career, and you know, you try and push yourself to learn some new tricks and keep up with the boys. But no, it's happy to be here, like I said.
I was going to say how much you've enjoyed it this year. Obviously, it's not nice to be down in the timesheets, but these bikes, I've obviously never ridden one, but they look like works of art. What are they like to ride, and yeah, how much have you enjoyed riding these machines and racing them?
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be surprised to hear, but they're actually it's really nice to ride, and that's why I signed up for it, because I tested 2 years ago with it, and it went okay, but I really enjoyed riding the bike more than anything. It's very good fun. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's rev and go. There's no complications with it at all. So it's that part of it You know, when you've got to try and get 100% out of something around the track, you know, that's quite a fun thing to you know, sort of try and squeeze everything out of. And yeah, I think if it wasn't like that, if I didn't enjoy the testing that I did a couple of years ago, I wouldn't be here. But yeah, it's, you know, like I said, you've got to work with the limits of the bike a little bit. You've got to work with the weight and understand how to ride them, and also the power delivery. You know, the torque is as you'd expect, quite strong with the electric bike, but then it soon kind of peters off. It kind of just fizzles out a little bit, the top torque. So that momentum that you take out of the corner really pays dividends at the end of the straight, because what you get there with this thing, it's not like a normal engine where it keeps revving and revving and revving. It's kind of like quite a capped ceiling on and how the torque is mapped, say. But yeah, no, it's a challenge.
Talking of challenges, wet weather, how are you feeling ahead of potentially this race? Hopefully get it underway. How much wet weather experience have you had on a MotoE bike, and how are you feeling ahead of a potential wet race?
We did a couple of sessions, very first test of the year in Portimao. So we actually had quite a wet test, but there was a little bit of a limit on tyres. So we had, yeah, just a few sessions, I think, in the rain, and nothing since then until actually Friday morning, but it wasn't properly wet. It was sort of a drying track. So, yeah, not a lot. Nothing with the Michelins. They're a completely different beast in the wet as well as the dry, but particularly in the wet. Very good at certain points, but don't give you a lot of warning. Unlike, you know, the tyre that I've used, the other brand that I've used, they give you a lot of warning, but maybe a little bit less performance. So, yeah, it'll be, I don't know what to expect, to be honest.
Chaz, thanks for your time, much appreciated, and hopefully we see you racing hopefully soon.
Cheers, thank you.
Cheers, Chaz.
Yeah, great stuff there, Elliot. Thanks very much for letting us hear the insights of the ever-knowledgeable Chaz Davis, who is a great person to speak to about all things motorbikes, because his knowledge is, well, far beyond what I can comprehend at times. He's not just a fast, obviously multiple race winner in World Superbikes and rider of MotoE. Just like Luka Stulovic, he also has a bit of a side job as well as a MotoE rider, but Chaz does some great work as a rider spotter in the World Superbike Championship for Nicola Bulega, who's obviously fighting for the World Superbike Championship this year, and the Ducati factory team.
Yeah, I spoke to him about that actually way back at round one in Portimao, what that was like. And obviously Chaz is a very decorated World Superbike rider, you know, finished runner-up to Jonathan Rea, who is statistically the greatest World Superbike rider of all time. Finished runner-up to him on several occasions, and it's, you know, he said it's one of those tricky jobs where he can't, or he doesn't go and like kind of impose his opinion on them, because it's, you know, they ride so different to the way that he rode, and they're a different stature and they prefer different things in their setup. And he said it's always just kind of offering your insight and analysis to then allow them to make the kind of conclusions themselves. It was quite interesting just to hear that from Chaz, who is working with, you know, some of the best riders in the world at this current time, and just how tricky of a job that can be, and finding that balance between, you know, saying, oh, you're doing this wrong or you're doing that right, rather, you know, than actually giving them the input and the feedback so they can then go and say where they think they're going wrong and where they think they're going right. So it was great to chat to him about that. Really, really insightful.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a very analytical mind. And there we have confirmation that we are going racing. Pit lane will open at 4:55, which is in 12 minutes time. For 4 minutes, we'll have 2 siding laps and a new race distance of 8 laps. So good news, you would have to say, gentlemen, that we will be going racing for race 2 here at the Sachsenring in the MotoE category. And yeah, these guys now have to get right back into the zone, and they have about 11 minutes to do so.
Yep, so as we do say then, going racing finally. That is fantastic news. I have to echo the sentiments of Neil Morrison there. So if you've been hanging around, we appreciate the patience and you sticking with us, but maybe just go and grab yourself one final beverage and one final snack, because in around about 10 minutes we should be getting some action down there in pit lane as the riders file out to go and do those 2 sighting laps, and then the 8-lap dash that we will have here for MotoE Race 2.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I mean, it seems quite crazy, but at the end of this race, we will actually be 3/4 of the way through this year's MotoE World Championship. Just 2 more rounds to come in Austria, and then the season finale in Misano, like we've had every single year. And
So,
it's, I mean, it's been a bit of a rollicking ride, hasn't it, so far? I think the championship table tells that story. Jack, you just have to look at the fact that the top 3 are separated by 8 points. I think the official there is letting the riders down at the 658 team know exactly what is going to happen with the new restart procedure.
I think we have to put you on the spot, perhaps, Neil. At this stage, do you think there is a more likely championship winner or not?
I mean, earlier today I thought maybe say Oscar Gutierrez, and then we saw his challenge come spectacularly undone. I mean, Garzo is looking pretty good, but he obviously had a bit of a duff round a couple of races back, but in recent terms he has been strong. Also, I kind of like the look of Alessandro Zaccone, just because I think he's probably the fastest rider in the class at the moment, and he actually managed to whittle away a few points in the championship in race 1. He was 41 back, now he's 35. So let's see, but I'm sure whatever I think is going to be pretty much turned on its head in about 30 minutes time.
Yeah, it does seem that every time we think one thing, it completely goes and does the opposite. Just in case at home you're not too aware of what the point situation is, we've got them on our timer screen here, so I'll run you through because it is pretty tight at the top. Hector Garzo stands at 154 points as the championship leader. For now, Mattia Casadei, who relinquished after that first race, is on 147. Then just one further back is Kevin Zanoni on 146. Oscar Gutierrez is there in 4th position in the championship at 137. And then Zaccone in 5th, 119. There are some riders that are relatively close to Zaccone, but perhaps not quite showing the type of form that Alizak has been showing himself, that we do think is, well, it could be potentially championship form, as long as he can keep it going. But that's really been the kind of, well, the golden buzzer in MotoE this season, because it's just been a season of chaos in you know, the simplest terms we can put it. It kind of started out Mattia Casadei, you know, taking a 3rd and a 1st, the most consistent on that day, but it was Nicola Spinelli that won 3 of the first 4 races. Then it kind of changed hands and we saw Gutierrez and Zanoni come to the fore. And then by the time we got to Mugello, Mattia Casadei bit back, and we kind of thought, well, here we go. He's recovered from his blip that was the Barcelona round. And yeah, then it didn't turn out that way, with Hector Garzo surging through once again for his first set of podiums since the very first round. Oh, sorry, I should say he also was on the podium in one of the Mugello races as well, which actually makes it now 4 podiums in a row for Garzo.
Yeah, I think one of the standout things about the championship so far, we've had 6 different race winners in, 9 races so far, which is a pretty good variety. We had actually 8 different race winners last year, which was a new record for the MotoE class over a single season. And just as Chaz Davis was saying to Elliot a few minutes ago, you can jump on this bike and pretty much pull the throttle and go. It does seem like it's a pretty good, pretty rider-friendly bike, which means that it's, I wouldn't say it's obviously not easy to ride, but I think a lot of riders from, let's say, different backgrounds with different levels of experience can jump on it, and if the conditions or the settings are right and the track conditions are to their liking, then yeah, they can go for it. So 6 different winners, and the funny thing is that the likes of Matteo Ferrari, Jordi Torres, Eric Granado are not among them, and you would say that they probably will get among them by the end of the year.
So then I believe we can go down to El, who's in pit lane for us still. He's down there with MotoGP legend Randy Mamola.
Yeah, certainly I'm with MotoGP legend Randy Mamola. Randy, good to see you in pit lane. I know it's not ideal conditions. How are you finding this weekend, especially MotoE? How much are you enjoying MotoE this year?
Well, MotoE's always been a spectacle for us and to watch. And obviously my son being team coordinator for LCR makes me want to be out here a little bit more than normal. And also being here at this tight racetrack to see it, it's just so unfortunate because it just seems like the magnetism's coming from the weather plays a part what's happening, and this is why we're just stranded here in the pit lane.
How much do you enjoy the Sachsenring? It's obviously a unique layout for the riders and teams, especially for setup, etc. How would you describe the Sachsenring?
Tough. It's a tough track. You know, it's like driving a car, a real car on a go-kart track. You know, and it's the same with the motorcycles. You know, it's the shortest track that I think we have on the calendar, and the toughest part probably for the tire companies and also the setup is all the left-hand corners that we have. You know, once you get up to turn 6. And then the speed that you carry. I noticed in MotoGP, especially this year being here, I was here last year as well, the grip level's kind of reduced. I don't think that's Michelin's fault, but it is part of what's going on in this type of racetrack. If you can imagine today's race, I didn't check afterwards, but today's race hard on the left-hand side of that tire all the way till you get to from 6 to 10 is all left, and then down the hill. You know, and then two more, 12 and 13. So,
Randy, appreciate your time. The weather's just worsening now as we speak, so enjoy the race if we do get one, and great to speak to you as always.
No problem. I'd like to come back out and talk again and a little bit more and follow more about the championship. There's a lot of great teams that are here pushing for this, and it is what our future's about. Do I like that? You know, that's not to be decided right now, but it is something very special here.
Yeah, agreed, Randy. Thank you for your time, and try not to get too wet in these conditions.
Or struck by lightning.
Thank you, Randy.
Always a pleasure to chat to Randy Mamola. Thanks, El, for grabbing Randy down there in pit lane. And it was actually a pleasure a couple of weeks ago to see Randy reunited with one of his old race bikes. I think the LCR team had a little bit of a track day at Vallelunga, one of the circuits in Italy, and Randy was rather emotional when he took the covers off one of his old 500 Hondas. And yeah, it was good to see him reunited with that.
Fantastic, yeah. Well, Randy, obviously one of the few riders to have won races in the Premier class on 3 different makes of bike, which, among other things, makes him stand out. I think we can pass down to Elliot. We see that some shots indicate it's raining pretty heavily now. Elliot, is that the way?
Yeah, in the last sort of 30 seconds, just I was finishing speaking with Randy, the weather has worsened. You can probably hear from the mic. The wind's picked up, the rain's coming again now. I did potentially mention earlier, I can't remember if I did, but there was more rain looking like it was coming from the back of the circuit. Chaz Davies just indicating that as well. And yeah, as I'm speaking now, the weather conditions are really, really worsening. So I don't want to say it too loudly, but potentially another delay incoming, and there's going to be a decision made soon whether we get racing underway or not. But yes, just what time are we now? Yeah, 3 minutes before pit lane was scheduled to open, the weather conditions have severely worsened as we're speaking. So hopefully this doesn't stay around. They are opening the gates to get out on pit lane. So let's see what happens. Obviously, still conditions good enough to race in, but as long as there's not too much more lightning and thunder in the air. But yeah, conditions really worsening now.
Yeah, is it very windy? We can hear some of the wind from our cameras, I think it is, Elliot, but has the wind picked up as well?
Yes, it has. What we call it in Britain and Ireland and other parts of the world, sideways rain. Yeah, windy, rainy, just not very nice to be down here. I'm pretty jealous of you guys up in that nice warm commentary box. Sterling job as always, waffling on with your stories, etc., and keeping the live going. But yes, it is what I would call sideways rain.
Lovely stuff. Well, something tells me someone up there might not want to have a second MotoE race here, because everything seems to be against us at the moment. We're getting out there for a race start just when the pit lane is scheduled to open. It does look as though conditions have really worsened, and certainly the wettest I think that we've had without question so far this afternoon.
Right, well, who do we need to bargain with? Who do we need to pay off to get this rain stopped so we can have this MotoE race? I'm actually just... Oh, yeah. El's just saying in our ear that it's really bad, and I can see the rain rippling across the front straight.
There's another delay incoming, I'm afraid, folks, by the looks of it, because, yeah, we're not going out in that. There's just, that's just too dangerous. That's too much rain, you would have to say. And with the wind as well, it does look as though we're caught right in the middle of a storm.
Wow, look at that. Yep, there you go then. Race delayed due to weather conditions. If we had no bad luck, we'd have no luck at all. This is, yeah, it's not been the best of weekends for us here in MotoE, and as Elliot rather correctly said, it is raining sideways here now at the Sachsenring. yeah, that is thundering down.
Yeah, chucking it down, isn't it? It really is not very nice out there.
Yeah, I can confirm this is not fun in the slightest. And as you can see from your pictures, I can just see it on the monitors that we're all tucked under the pit boxes here in pit lane. Yeah, the gates have now closed on the start-finish straight, and yeah, conditions as I speak are even worsening even more. So yeah, I'll head back to you guys.
I hope that waterproof jacket has got a very high waterproof rating, mate, because yeah, you're going to get a bit damp if not.
It's working, but not as much as I'd want it to.
And I think you summed up the situation a lot better than any of us have done in the commentary box, Ellie. You said it's not fun. That's all that needs to be said. That doesn't look that much fun from where we're sat, just across the way from you. We're in a little kind of bunker type building, just on the underneath where that camera is at the moment. In fact, just at the bottom of your screen there with the green roof, you can see.
Maybe we'll send you out to just wave your hand, see if you can get in the bottom of the shot there, Neil.
Yeah, look at that. I mean, yeah, there's absolutely no way you can go safely in those types of conditions. Safety car making a very slow way down the pit lane, and I guess we're in some ways back to square one. I'm sure we're probably going to try and let this this shower of rain pass, and then after that we'll probably have to judge again whether the conditions are appropriate or viable to go racing. So let's see how we go.
Do you know what I've just realised, Neil? We are, of course, on the other side of the front straight to the media centre here, and I foolishly did not bring a rain jacket with me to the commentary box. So
I didn't bring a jacket to the track today. I thought it was going to be pure sun and loveliness the whole way through, but hasn't quite proved out to be that that way. So just going to be a fun walk back to the car park later.
There was a small Elliot York cackle in my ear then, just as I said that I don't have a rain jacket. Yeah, probably shouldn't have mentioned about El perhaps not taking one earlier. But anyway, yeah.
He'll lend you his, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure he will. It'll already be soaked through. So
yeah, you're free to borrow mine, gents, but I can confirm that it's not really doing its job anymore. I'm absolutely drenched. So yeah, I can walk around and bring it to you, no problem, but I don't think it's going to help much.
Right then, so yeah, unfortunately, as we do have, the situation is normal for the past, 57.5 minutes that we've been on air. Yeah, still delayed here for MotoE Race 2, and as good as the Michelin wet tyres are, they're definitely not miracle workers. And yeah, I tell you what though, I hope we're not delayed anymore, because it's about an hour and 3 minutes until kick-off. Come on, England are playing later. We need to get this on the road. So yeah, hopefully if this rain can, it would be nice if it just clears off.
Well, at least we've got a good soundtrack to the delay that we're having at the moment. Quite a varied one as well. And just when I thought it had brightened up ever so slightly, it has taken a turn for the worse. So let's wait this out again and see what happens as everyone takes cover just across from us on the other side of the start-finish straight in pit lane. There is some shelter just there. Don't think it's doing much of a job, to be fair.
Maybe we should just send them out for a 100-metre dash on foot from their original grid positions, just to get some sort of race going.
Paddock scooters, perhaps, we could say. That would maybe be safer.
I vote you two, a nice and warm and dry, do a 100-metre foot race down the front straight, and whoever wins gets some championship points.
Oh, no, El, I don't know if you know, but I've got a bit of a bad knee, actually, so I'm not sure I'll be able to do that one. Maybe you'll have to take my place.
I mean, I'm already wet, so I'm starting as favourite, so that's fine.
Good man. Yep, you are a rocket ship anyway, Elliot. I've seen you move like lightning, you are. Maybe that's what was causing it, actually.
On a serious note, sorry to butt in again, I was just chatting to Randy about 2 minutes ago. We were looking at his weather radar, and unfortunately it does look like this rain is here to stay for the foreseeable. And when I say the foreseeable, I mean until about 8-9 p.m. this evening. Now, obviously, weather radars can be inaccurate sometimes, and some of it was heavier than other bits, but yeah, looking into the distance where the rain has come from for the last hour or so, it doesn't look any brighter over there. Can't really see the hillsides that you can normally see at the Sachsenring when it's nice and sunny like it was earlier on. So not to be the bearer of bad news, I've not really brought much good news in the last hour or so, but yeah, it looks like this rain is sticking around. So yeah, I'll try and bring info when I can. It's currently still tipping it down, like you can see on your cameras just there, so I'm finding it a little bit difficult to try and spot people who might know more info than me, but I'll try and get some now.
We don't want info, Elliot. We want good news, not bad news, if possible. So let's see if any is forthcoming in the coming minutes, as there is a further delay. Information that 5:10 will have more information. See whether it's possible to go racing again. As in case you're just joining us, the situation is obviously very heavy rain. Initially we were having lightning strikes close to the track, and that was very unsafe for the bikes to be out on track, and also the marshals as well. I think that's passed, and now we're just in the middle of a storm, unfortunately, where the rain is pelting it down, so much too heavy at the moment to go racing. We're hoping that it will relent fairly sharpish, but yeah, we will be giving you more information in about 10 minutes time. So as Jack said previously, if you want to go and maybe put the kettle on, make a brew, put some bread in the toaster and make a little snack, we would be fully understanding, because in 10 minutes time we'll have more information as to which way this afternoon is going here.
Yeah, we might have to get Elliot to go and put the kettle on and bring us a brew up in the commentary box if he'd be so kind, but yeah, I'm not too sure.
Anything to get inside, I'm happy, Jen, so I'm on my way.
Brilliant. Go and pick up the 2 mugs, we'll see you in 5. But yeah, certainly not much fun out there, as you can see from Oscar Gutierrez's face. That is a rather bored looking man. Yeah, not having much fun at all. Not what they signed up for when we came to the circuit today, because this rain, I presume this is the rain that when we looked on the long range forecast for the week before coming here to Germany, yeah, it said on Sunday it was going to tip it down for, well, a large majority of the day, and it seems it's just condensed itself, moved itself forward, and gone, you can have it on Saturday actually. So yeah, not too much fun, but hopefully it does mean that tomorrow the racing action, of course, for Moto3, Moto2 and MotoGP will be dry, because as we saw in the MotoGP sprint earlier, the Tissot sprint, it was a fairly close race actually. Some of the pace and how spread apart a couple of the riders were was perhaps closer than we all expected, so tomorrow's race could be quite interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. No spoilers, of course, but it was a good race. We were maybe expecting a bit more domination from a certain rider, but it didn't quite come to pass. So definitely check that out if you haven't already seen it. Definitely you won't want to miss tomorrow's race. 30 laps, I think it is, of this Sachsenring circuit. MotoGP racing here is usually pretty interesting, and last year, of course, served up a proper classic between Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin. Could we see a repeat of that in tomorrow's race? Certainly some of the practice times and qualifying indicated as much. And one or two interesting little bits and bobs just to feed you, Jack, from some of the MotoGP riders debriefs that have been ongoing while we've been on air. Fabio Quartararo was speaking to some of our journalist colleagues quite recently there, maybe about half an hour ago, and from saying that he wanted Fabio Di Giannantonio to jump on board the Pramac Yamaha next year, that was his first choice. He was saying, no, it seems that Miguel Oliveira is actually pretty close to Simon for Pramac Yamaha next year, which would be a pretty interesting move.
Yeah, that would be an interesting one. I was chatting with Simon Crafar actually before this MotoE race, well, was due to get underway at 4:10 earlier today, but on the way back from the MotoGP Sprint Park Fair, made down all the way at Turn 1, he was saying he was absolutely delighted to see Miguel back, because for a long time it looked as though we might not see Miguel get back to his best, but he's just showed today that it was always locked in there, just needed the recipe and the combination to break it back out again. And it would be interesting if he did go to that Pramac Yamaha squad, because of course Yamaha, they have kind of long-term ties with Miguel from a while back, from when they did try to snap him up for MotoGP before he was coming into the class. So yeah,
right, yeah,
there's a relationship there already.
Yeah, back when he was with KTM, I think I remember reading that Yamaha were interested in trying to sign him for their factory team. And, well, if their number one target, Fabio Di Giannantonio, is going to continue with VR46 next year, it seems as though he's edging closer to that. I'm just hoping that Maria isn't using Shazam, because everyone knows this song, right? That's on the PA. Well, I think they do. I hope so, but yes. It looks as though Digia is going to be staying with VR46 next year, and Miguel Oliveira may be placing into the Pramac squad, and that, I guess, leaves a seat open over at Trackhouse.
Yeah, lots of talk surrounding Trackhouse this weekend, of course. Davide Brivio, openly saying about Joe Roberts that he is one of the possibilities it's being considered, and I think I speak for the large majority of people. Just do it. Put him on it. Put Joe Roberts onto the bike. It would be great to have an American back in MotoGP finally as a full-time rider. It's certainly been a long old time since that last happened. It would have been Ben Spies, wouldn't it? The last time for a full-time American MotoGP rider?
Nicky Hayden.
Ah, yes, of course. Yeah, because he went to Superbikes at the end of 2015.
15, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, been a long time, absolutely, that we've not had an American rider in a full-time slot on the MotoGP grid, and he's doing a fine job as well, this Joe.
Yeah, and I think one of the rumours doing the rounds here at the Sachsenring is that Jack Miller is also in the mix for that second Trackhouse seat if Miguel Oliveira does indeed move across to Pramac Yamaha. So yes, the big championship contenders in MotoGP this year, their futures have obviously been sorted now for a couple of weeks with Jorge Martin, Pecco Bagnaia, that was months ago, but Marc Marquez as well, all being sorted just after Mugello. And now we're seeing some of the mid-pack, I guess you could say, finding spots on the grid for next year, which, I mean, it does look as though we're going to have a very different grid to the one we currently have for 2025. Lots of movers and shakers, which I think is a pretty good thing for some of the fans watching from home. We're going to have, maybe a couple of different nut runners up at the front in 2025.
Yeah, a bit of a bonkers grid, to be honest, for next season. In MotoGP, of course, we've got the likes of Maverick Vinales and Enea Bastianini going over to KTM. And if, as Neil says, perhaps Jack Miller is being considered for one of the Aprilia rides at Trackhouse and another change in manufacturer there. It's very interesting technically as well, particularly for KTM at the minute, with the news that Fabio Sterlachini, their technical director, is perhaps moving on. So you do wonder what KTM situation will be going into next year. Certainly the rider lineup is stunning. I mean, to have Brad Binder, Pedro Acosta there in the Red Bull KTM squad, and then in the Red Bull Tech Free squad to have Maverick and Enea, two riders that when they turn it on are unbeatable. Yeah, an unreal lineup that is for KTM next season. And definitely when we talk about lineups, Factory Ducati, what a superstar and mega lineup that is as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And did I see some rumours earlier linking Fabiano Sterlachini with Yamaha for next year? I think I may have done. If I didn't, then I've just put it out into the ether there for someone to click on to. As it is at least brightening up. That is a more optimistic shot down the start-finish straight here at the Sachsenring than it was even 5 minutes ago. Some brighter sky on the horizon, at least. And we are edging towards 5:10 when we will have some further information on the start.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed this Jack Gorse, Neil Morrison and Elliot York podcast special that we've brought to you, because we should be going racing in just a few minutes time. And actually I think Elliot's got an update for us, because as we do look out our window, it's looking a bit better. How is it down there, El?
It is a little bit better, yeah. A bit of positive news. I can see some, not blue sky, I won't go as far as saying that, but lighter sky, let's say, on the horizon. I can see the hillsides a little bit clearer now over in the distance, so that's good news. The safety car going around the track, and the IRTA guys are just chatting to Hector Garzo and Lucas Tulovic about potential options ahead. So I'll try and get some more info to you when possible, try and chat to the IRTA guys when they're finished speaking to the riders. I'm not obviously going to butt in just yet, because serious conversations are underway about what's going on and what the future holds in terms of potentially racing today, and I think they've got a couple of options, so I'll come back to you soon. But yes, there is brighter skies on the horizon, which is good news, and hopefully for everyone's sake we can get some racing underway.
Nice one, Elliot. Well, I told you to come back with some good news, and you delivered, so I appreciate that, mate. Thank you very much.
Very demanding of you, Neil Morrison.
Exactly. Well, you know, he's brought us nothing but bad news all day. A jest, of course. As we look down, that is Massimo Roccoli, a new figure on the MotoE grid for this year, the number 55. He had a tough race in race 1 earlier today.
Yeah, a little bit of a difficult result for Massimo after a pretty good run that he's had recently. And yeah, been doing a fine job. It was actually a pleasure to chat to him on Thursday, because growing up watching Massimo in World Supersport Championship in kind of the mid-2000s, it was great to kind of remember some of the names like Charpentier, Sofuoglu, Robin Harms, all those sorts of riders that raced in the World Supersport Championship back then, that were such great riders and in a golden era for that championship. Yeah, it was nice to kind of recount some of that very briefly with Massimo.
Robin Harms, there's a name I haven't heard in about 15 years.
Long time, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've just hit 5:10, so hopefully some news will be incoming pretty soon with regards to what we're doing here at the Sachsenring. I mean, I wouldn't say it stopped raining, but it looks as though it's certainly calmed down. No, it's not stopped raining at all, actually. Completely ignore that comment, sorry, but what I think I meant to say is that it's cleared up ever so slightly. We couldn't really see a great deal across the track from us a few minutes ago, and now we can. And we have been told that the start is delayed due to weather conditions, which I think we already knew. Maybe there'll be another update in the coming minutes.
Fingers crossed there is. Praying for an update to be coming soon, because of course we do want to see some racing. It's all good fun us chatting away here in the commentary box, but we want to go and have a bit of a shout about some good racing on track and get this next race of the MotoE World Championship underway, because as we say, we've only got 5 left. 5 races, 2 rounds after this one in Austria and Misano. And yeah, it should be a very exciting championship conclusion, because we've seen drama at both circuits in the past. And yeah, absolutely. I think even, that's where Lukas Tulovic picked up his one and only win in the MotoE World Championship in Austria, the venue that we do go to next time. And I believe last year it was Mattia Casadei that won both races there. So good omens for him as he looks to recover the championship deficit that he now has to Hector Garzo at the top of the standings. Bit of a yawn there from Matteo Ferrari. Hopefully just gets himself G'd up a little bit. And yeah, indeed, trying to do that there with Alessio Finello, who had a top 10 in the first race of the day as well. So a good job from Alessio. Another top 10 for his sheet in the 2024 season.
Yeah, it was a decent ride from the Italian, as those ADAC flags just above our commentary booths show you that the wind is still it's still blowing out there, but it's not quite as strong as it was, not quite as stormy as it was. Some IRTA officials look as though they're informing the Aspar team with what the potential plan is, and well, what is the plan? Elliot, maybe you can tell us more.
Yeah, I'm just overhearing the officials telling the riders that at the minute the plan is to have the pit lane open at 5:25, so around 13 minutes time, and have a normal race, an 8-lap race, and they're going to have 2 sighting laps potentially. That's what they're telling a couple of the riders at this moment in time. Obviously things can change, as we've seen throughout this hour and 10 MotoE podcast special that we've brought to you live from the Sachsenring. So yeah, at the minute that's what I'm hearing down here. Not sure if you've got official confirmation yet in the comms box, but what I'm hearing is pit lane potentially to be open in 12 minutes time at 25 past, and then an 8-lap race with 2 sighting laps, obviously to allow the riders to go out, get a feel for the conditions. Obviously they can't just have one warm-up lap and then send them out racing, because we've had a lot of water on track. The riders also need to test what the conditions are like on track, see if it's safe enough to race. But obviously the safety car's been round a couple of times now and the track doesn't seem to be too bad. So yeah, hopefully in the next 10 or so minutes the pit lane will open and hopefully we can be racing. But yeah, I'll bring you more info when I get it.
Thanks very much, Elliot. Yep, I mean, we've just had confirmation on our screens that your information is correct. Pit lane to open at 5:25, which is in 11 minutes time. 4 minutes, 2 sighting laps, race distance of 8 laps. So let's try this for what, the 4th time? And whether this
don't remind me
whether this works. So
we're gonna have to start calling Elliot Eavesdrop York, because he's certainly been eavesdropping on a few conversations in pit lane, seeking out the information. But yeah, good stuff, El, because
Elliot Fish, more like, with his weather updates as well.
Absolutely, yeah. It's probably a rather damp squid out there. There's El in his not very waterproof rain jacket.
Yeah, so when pit lane opens, riders can exit out onto the track. They can do 2 siding laps with wet tyres and a wet setup, but it's not mandatory to do 2 laps. But I would imagine, because they haven't had full wet weather conditions all weekend, that everyone will want to be trying to get as much experience under their belts, even if it is as little as 2 laps before the race starts. And I mean, you have to feel for the riders in a situation like this, Jack, because they've been on the grid readying themselves for the start, then they've had to basically go away, keep their minds occupied, go through that whole routine again, and then another delay, and well, here we go. Hopefully this will be the real deal at 5:25.
Yeah, it really is just kind of one of the worst situations you can go through as a rider. Of course, it's not anything dramatic, you know, there's not been any big incident, but it's just one of those things where you're constantly waiting around, being told, maybe in 10 minutes, so you get yourself into the frame, and then you get told, no, sorry, another 10 minutes. And yeah, that cannot be easy to deal with, but thankfully our riders in the MotoE World Championship, a lot of them are pretty cool, calm, collected, lots of cool heads out there, so I'm sure they've been absolutely fine dealing with it. See Mattia down there having a chat with the team, laughing and joking away, so yeah, definitely dealing with it fine. And it's just one of those situations where, as you said earlier, Neil, I think about an hour ago now, you just got to accept it and, you know, get on with it.
Adapt, exactly. But this really could throw the cat amongst the pigeons, you would say, in the MotoE class, this race too. As Chaz Davis was telling Elliot earlier in the broadcast, we haven't really had any wet, well, in fact, we haven't had any wet racing so far in MotoE in 2024. Some wet testing at the start of the year, and I think, well, not even a wet session in Mugello. We had the rain arrive midway through one of the qualifying sessions, but I think it was so brief that the session was red flagged, and when we restarted, it was dry again. So let's see how this goes. Technicians down in all of the teams getting ready for what is coming up in about 8 minutes time. Maria Herrera's squad seem to have everything prepped. Maria, it's been a bit of a tricky weekend for her. She qualified 18th and she was 12th in race 1, and yeah, try and stay awake before the second race start, Maria, please. But she's had some good performances in the rain in years gone by.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly knows how to ride a motorcycle, does Maria Herrera. And I wish her good luck as well in future coming rounds for the Women's World Championship too, which she so brilliantly won those first 2 races of the World Championship. Actually, we just had MotoGP commentator Lewis Sotheby poke his nose into the commentary box. I think he's forgot his bag. I'll out him on the comms. So yeah, Sudders has come to collect some things before he goes off and prepares himself to watch England, I presume, Lewis? Yeah.
Can you just quickly ask Lewis if he fancies take over in pit lane?
Lewis, Elliot asks if you fancy taking over in pit lane.
That's a hard pass from me, Elliot. There's a little bit of a running joke amongst the commentary team viewers that Elliot is an actual jinx and he's the reason for the delay. So we'll leave Elliot down there. But great job as always, and yeah, hopefully we're up and racing soon.
Well, I did say that Elliot was electric off the line in terms of running, and yeah, he's brought on this electrical storm, so I'm pinning full blame on you, El. Sorry, mate, but yeah, we see there.
Yeah, to be honest, I will not happily take the blame. I'm not going to happily take it, but I will take the blame. Yeah, India last year we had about 2 hours delays in the comments box. That was my first time in the comments box for a few months. Another one happened in Japan, and then yeah, now this weekend in MotoE pit lane. Yeah, I can confirm that it's probably my fault that this is happening. So apologies to all the riders and teams. I might send out an official statement later on today, sending my sincerest apologies. But I come to you with a positive-ish update. The weather is pretty much as good as it has been for the last hour or so. I'm losing track of time because we've been on air for that long, but the weather is pretty much as good as it has been ever since the hard rain came down about 45 minutes ago. I haven't heard a clap of thunder or a flash of lightning, haven't seen a flash of lightning for a good 10 or 15 minutes, so it looks like the electrical storm has passed. Everyone in the pit lane is now getting sort of into the zone 6 minutes till pit lane opens. Obviously the riders have done a lot of waiting around, obviously getting very impatient. So it does look like we're going to get underway, hopefully in 6 minutes. But yes, and as I look down towards turn 13 and 12, there is a little bit of blue sky coming, at least brighter sky, and the view is as clear as it has been, like I say, for about an hour now. So good news on that front. But yes, apologies to you guys and all the viewers at home that, yes, this is potentially my fault. So yeah, apologies.
Yeah, I reckon it's probably maybe you just stood still and not moving around, so that's why the storm has rolled off and the electrical current has died down a little bit. But yeah, as El says, I do appreciate if you're still watching here with us, waiting for MotoE Race 2 to get underway. Very much appreciated. Thank you for sticking with us, with myself, Neil and Elliot. And soon, as you can see, the cover's actually finally coming off the bikes. That is a good sign indeed, isn't it? As we do wait for pit lane to open in around 4 minutes' time. And this race, it should be a good one. Wet races at MotoE are usually a little bit of chaos. You kind of never know where the next winning threat is going to come from. We always see a bit of a random podium in wet weather races. And if we do get a random podium here, well, the championship will once again be turned on its head, as it seems to be turned on its head every single time we turn up for a MotoE race weekend. And yeah, I'm sure it won't be anything different here. There you can see the little graphic popped up on the right-hand side of the screen. Pit lane opens in 4 minutes and 12 seconds now, for 4 minutes. So plenty of time for the riders to get out there and take those sighting laps if they do indeed want to, which, if I was a MotoE rider out there, I'm certainly way too slow on a motorcycle to be a MotoE rider, but if I was and I was fast enough, I think I'd take those sighting laps just to see how the conditions were, get used to the feeling, because of course it's, yeah, as we say, we haven't had some proper wet running. I think the only saving grace is now perhaps these conditions aren't crazily different from what they had in practice 1 yesterday morning, so maybe there is some sort of experience there, but we'll see. I can actually just see Elliot York walking over to the pit wall to have a look. He's giving us a wave. Good man. Yeah. Definitely doesn't look too bad, I don't think. So we'll see what it's like for the riders once they do get out there. But as we say, about 3 minutes until we open pit lane.
Yeah, it doesn't look too bad, to be fair. There's no standing water from what I can see on the front straight. Yeah, to be fair, as much as rain as we had, it's drained pretty well from what I can see. Obviously, I'm only seeing in pit lane and on the start-finish straight. Obviously not seeing the rest of the track yet. But the rain has pretty much stopped now. There's little spits in the air, but nothing that's going to affect the conditions too much at this stage. So yeah, hopefully there's no more rain coming and the conditions can dry up as quickly as possible. But yeah, like I say, the conditions, to be fair to the Sachsenring circuit, the drainage looks to have worked pretty well. Obviously, we're going to get a real feel of how conditions are once the bikes go out on track. There's going to be plenty of spray, I assume. But yeah, conditions don't look too bad considering how much rain we've had.
Elliot, this is wonderful good news that you're providing us up in the commentary box, and I want you to know that it's greatly appreciated.
Neil, it's an absolute pleasure to bring some good news to you guys. It's been, what have we gone now? An hour and 22 minutes. So it's been a slog, but in 3 minutes' time, we're going to have bikes on track to talk about. So yeah, glad to bring some good news. I've been the bearer of bad news for way too long, so it's good to bring you some good news. And I'm going to bring you some more because there is blue sky in the distance. It's got to reach us by the time this race is finished, but maybe good news for the Northern Talent Cup guys and a little bit later on. So yeah, pit lane opens in what? A couple of minutes' time, so let's go racing.
Absolutely, yes, let's go racing finally. And anyone that's still with us watching on the broadcast, we swear it will be worth the wait. Absolutely, it'll be pretty random and pretty difficult to predict with such limited wet weather running this year. And a penny for that rider's thoughts just at this moment. Alessandro Zaccone will be lining up on pole position, and well, he will be potentially the rider leading the pack down into turn 1. It will be Zaccone, Gutierrez and Spinelli starting from the front row. And I guess it's going to be the battle of the bravest, who is ready to put their neck on the line in conditions that they're not overly familiar with. I mean, all sorts of possibilities open up for how this race could potentially pan out. With you could make an argument for it favouring some of the more experienced names in the class. Riders that, of course, been in this championship for 6 years now, the likes of Casadei or Matteo Ferrari, Jordi Torres, who've been here since 2020. Or maybe it will favour one or two of the lesser experienced names in this class that are keen to make a good impression and just willing to brave it out a bit more than some of the more experienced ones. So certainly does pose quite an interesting dilemma. 8 laps as well, and as you can see, finally riders are moving towards the pit lane exit, which I feel like celebrating. I won't quite get up on the top of my chair and start cheering, but that's pretty much what my insides are telling me to do. You can see 10 seconds to go, and yeah, there's a queue of bikes.
Whoa, go
Waiting to make sure that they can get a couple of sighting laps in them before they form the grid. And here we go, pit lane is open, and the sighting laps are on the way. So this is going to be a pretty crucial time for these riders to gain a bit of an understanding of what track conditions are like. Let's just hope that everyone can keep it relatively safe on these laps before we make it to the grid.
Oh, finally, we got some bikes on track. That is a real relief, it has to be said. We've been in this commentary box now for about an hour and 26 minutes, and it's been a long old time since we well, were first told that we were going to be delayed for this second race of the day for the MotoE World Championship, and hurrah, there they are. They're out there on track. So these 2 sighting laps then, as Neil says, pretty crucial for the riders to just test the conditions, see what they're like. It definitely is a little bit wetter than what it was for them in practice 1 yesterday morning. A fair chunk more spray being kicked up off the back of those Michelin wet tyres. But lovely to see, actually, that the track conditions are pretty great, to be honest. No real standing water at all. The drainage at the Sachsenring circuit done a fantastic job dealing with that deluge that we had over an extended period. So yeah, great stuff, and hopefully very, very shortly indeed we will be racing and underway. And I can see out there on the grid that all the mechanics have made their way out onto the grid as well, so everything going ahead as planned, which is great news to see. And finally then we can get this second MotoE race going in Germany.
Yeah, and from these shots you can see just how skilled these riders are. It's not like they're wobbling around, dipping their toe in the water, seeing what conditions are like. It looks as though they're going at you know, almost full racing speeds, and pretty much everyone, unsurprisingly, dips into the pit lane. They have to put the pit limiter on as they go down pit lane, and then they will go back again for another sighting lap. And that's because basically all of the team personnel have formed on the grid around the grid slots, and yeah, more safer for the riders to do it this way. You can see that Nicola Spinelli leads the field around. Mikel Pons, could we see something interesting from the Spaniard? Pons still yet to be on the podium in this year's championship. As we go on board with Mattia Casadei, easy does it around turn 1. You want to be super careful with the throttle there. It is such a unique challenge, completely different to anything else we experienced on the MotoGP calendar. Just how long these corners are, like turn 3 down at the Omega Bend. And this long series of lefts where it is pretty much left for a good 30 seconds from the ascent up to turn 4, right the way down the hill into turn number 7 before you ascend again up to a couple of the more spectacular corners on the championship, turns 9, 10 and 11. This is turn 8 here that Mattia Casadei is currently negotiating, and let's face it, Jack, the Italian does need a bit of a response, because not necessarily his own doing, but it's been a shaky couple of rounds, hasn't it, after that brilliant performance at Mugello where he was first and second just before the spring break. Since then, results have been DNF 8th and 9th, which for a rider of Mattia Casadei, the reigning champion, in the kind of form that he's been in so far this season, that is nothing short of disastrous. And he's just run off track there, I think, down at turn 12. So Casadei getting his braking all wrong on the sighting lap.
Oh, marvellously, he somehow managed to keep it on 2 wheels. Blimey, I'm so impressed that he's actually managed to keep it on 2 wheels, dropping down from the fastest part of this Sachsenring course. Wow, how on earth has he stayed on there as he cut across the grass to then go down into the gravel? And yeah, that is not ideal, because of course he's just spent 2 laps getting used to it, but now the tyres are all dirty and he's coming round to the grid. He can't go and do another sighting lap to clean those tyres off. And yeah, he kind of needs to do a little bit of weaving to just clean off the gravel from those tyres and some of the dust, but I think the only thing that will save him perhaps is the wet weather conditions may just clean those tyres off a little bit quicker than if it was in the dry. He's just about to roll up past our commentary position now, and yeah, everything seems okay, but scary moment there.
Yep, absolutely. Better to do it on the side lap, you would say, than in the race, as the grid does form. So we're going to have, the pit lane is now closed, we're delighted to say, and we will be having this quick start procedure. So we're not going to be on the grid for long, and there will be no warm-up lap, as is usually the case in the MotoE World Championship. Just so delighted that we're going racing, Jack. I can barely contain my emotions up here in the commentary box, I have to say.
Yeah, it really is a fine time right now that we are about to go racing, and before we do go racing, we can go down to the grid with Elliot. I believe he's down there with Gutierrez.
Yeah, just down here with Gutierrez, just taking his gloves off and chatting with the team, so I'll let him do that first and foremost. But yeah, coming back to the box, obviously all the riders are discussing things with their teams. We're going to get underway very shortly. I think you're going to see Oscar on your screen just a moment in time, just discussing obviously what he's seen out there. Obviously the riders getting 2 laps under their belts, and from what I saw, Jensen, obviously what you were describing, conditions don't look too bad, which is obviously good news. But yeah, he's just debriefing with his team, so I'll hand back up to you now and come back down to me when he's ready.
Yeah, thanks, Elliot. And sorry, I was mistaken. I thought it was going to be a quick start procedure, but we're not having that on the grid at the moment. So a little bit more time for these riders to maybe debrief with their technicians and prepare themselves for the start ahead.
So I believe then Oscar looked like he was ready there, and we can now go down to Elliot, who's with Oscar on the grid.
Yeah, I'm down here with Oscar. Oscar, talk us through the sighting lap, the couple of sighting laps. What are conditions like out there?
Wow, difficult, eh? First condition in the wet this weekend. For sure the conditions will be difficult, but you know, we need to be ready, and let's try to finish, take points, don't make too much risk, and try to finish the race.
Have a good one, Oscar.
Thank you.
Yeah, sounding a little bit downbeat is Oscar after that kind of, well, very turbulent first race of the day. But I'm sure that he'll be looking to rebound here, and he's going to do it from certainly a decent starting position indeed. There you can see Hector Garzo, that winner of the first race earlier today, in dry conditions. Very different ball game now for Garzo to be able to go and do it again and double up here at the Sachsenring. Of course, his team's home race with the Intact GP squad hailing not too far away from here at all. So going to be a tricky one, this. Hard to really put your money on anyone, as we've said throughout this delay, that, you know, wet races in the MotoE World Championship often throw up different riders into the victory contention, podium contention, even some riders that we often don't see mixing in the top 10 come surging through into the top 5. And Jordi Torres will surely be looking at this race as an opportunity for him to actually get his first proper podium of the year, shall we say. Of course, was gifted that podium by virtue of Zaccone's disqualification from race 1 last weekend in Assen. Took that 3rd place when actually crossing the line 4th, but I'm sure he'll be looking at this as a real opportunity to go and do that.
Here is Matteo Ferrari then, 6th on the grid. Good race 1 performance from him. Number 11 has had a tough old season, hasn't he, Jack? But signs of light in the last couple of weeks that he's starting to get back to his best form, starting to recover some of his best form, and as I mentioned earlier, a pretty handy rider in the wet in years gone by.
Very. And incidentally, Neil, this is his 60th race start in the MotoE World Championship, and it's also Maria Herrera's 60th race start as well. So congrats to those two for achieving that milestone first for the riders, both current and past, that have raced in the MotoE World Championship. There you can see Mattia Casadei with 9 wins. Will it be a 10th one here? As his mechanics just pointing out to him there, be very smooth and cautious. The often rather chilled out, relaxed and jokey Casadei, looking quite serious there.
Yeah, I think that run through the gravel at turn 12 is probably playing through his mind somewhat. But yeah, as I previously said, best to get that out of the way on the siding laps. Here is Lukas Tulovic, who will be getting in the zone as it stands. Tulovic had a very eventful race in race 1. He was down in, I think, as low as 12th, maybe even 13th at the first corner when he ran wide, was pushed wide, and managed to recover, come through to 7th. And he actually said the second fastest lap of the race in race 1, which showed you just how fast Lukas Tulovic was. And had he not had a bad qualifying, I really think he would have been up there maybe challenging with his teammate Hector Garzo for victory, certainly for the podium anyway.
Yeah, I agree. He looked brilliant yesterday in practice before qualifying. So definitely Tulovic got some form around here at the Sachsenring, his home round, of course. Looking to finish off his home round on a high. There's Kevin Zanoni, a rider that will be probably quite thankful that it's actually wet for race 2. Of course, we had that shortened race 1 after the incident with Eric Granado at the second corner. With that shortened race down to just 5 laps, it's definitely saved the injured Kevin Zanoni's body a little bit. Don't worry, he's not broken anything. He's just a little bruised after a big crash, it has to be said, even though it wasn't so much of a big crash, where the bike came down or landed on top of him in the gravel at turn 1 in qualifying. A sore ankle, a sore wrist, a very bruised and inflamed knee. So yeah, definitely moving a little bit stiff is Kevin Zanoni, the rider that sits 3rd in the World Championship now. And these wet conditions should just help his aching body deal with the race distance a little bit better.
Just to put in here, gents, I'm obviously scanning the grid and walking around, see who I can speak to, but every rider has to say it looks like a tense grid, and if you get the feel of tension down here on the grid, more so than in race 1. Obviously the delay we've had and the conditions, they've not really experienced it so much this year, and obviously we're getting towards the meaty part of the season where every point matters in the title race. Obviously what a fantastic title race unfolding in MotoE, so this is the tensest grid I've been on so far in my short time here doing this job. But yeah, tensions are high here, and understandably so. So yeah, it's going to be obviously an intriguing race, and every rider is really in concentration mode and looking ahead to the job in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. Extremely understandable, as you do say, El. It's been quite the afternoon here for the second race of the day for MotoE, but finally we are going to be underway, and it's, yeah, exactly, as we do say, these kind of times where everything just kind of tenses up a little bit with the eyes fixed straight ahead, just like you see there with Massimo Roccoli looking down towards the run to turn 1. He'll be hoping for a good start, of course, because even though it's not very bad in terms of the wet conditions, there is still a little bit of spray out there, and that won't help regardless of how little that spray is. So then the safety car at the front of the grid does move off, and that means we'll have 5 minutes until we are going racing here. So it should be 5:42 for the race start here. Some just about over an hour and a half delayed due to that really heavy rainstorm and electrical storm that we did have earlier.
So conditions looking obviously far from perfect, but compared to what they were, let's say 30-40 minutes ago, pretty decent. I think we were all a little scared that the race would end up getting cancelled, whether it was due to the bolts of lightning or whether it was due to the heavy rain and torrential rain at one point. As you can see, Andrea Mantovani, full concentration there on the grid. Mantovani, it's been a tough weekend for him, 14th on the grid. Of course, many riders will have moved up 1 position due to the fact that Eric Granado will not be in 6th. Eric currently recovering in hospital after a crash in race 1. Is relatively a-okay, but just kept in hospital for some observations if you didn't see any of the news earlier today. So if Eric is watching from local hospital bed, then we wish you well, Eric, and we hope to see you back here pretty soon, and back racing again in Austria when we meet again for the 7th round of the championship in August.
Yeah, absolutely. Well wishes to Eric Granado then. As I'm sure, as Neil says, he probably will be watching this. Always keen to see exactly how his competitors do go. There's Kevin Manfredi, as we do say. The only 2 podiums he's had, both of them were in wet weather conditions. I believe, though, somewhat heavier wet weather conditions than this. I believe one of them was in Silverstone, and it was really thundering down there during that race.
Yeah, that was. I forget the name of the storm, but the storm was so serious that it had its own name.
So then we are 3 minutes away from race time here for the MotoE World Championship. Race 2 in Germany, and it will be Alessandro Zaccone starting on pole, with Oscar Gutierrez and Nicolas Spinelli completing the front row. Hector Garzo, Jordi Torres, and now Matteo Ferrari complete the second row, with Eric Granado watching on from the hospital nearby in Chemnitz. Mattia Casadei is there, heading up the third row of the grid, just ahead of the home hero Lukas Tulovic in 8th place. Watch out for him as he launches from the middle of the third row. And completing the grid is Armando Pontoni and Maria Herrera, who surged through to 12th in the first race of the day in that shortened 5-lap dash. She'll be looking to do a similar thing here in the wet conditions. Predictions time. Let's see what you've got, Neil.
Well, I'm going to go a little left field. I'm going to go for a home victory for Lukas Tulovic.
I like it.
How about yourself?
Oh, tricky. I really don't know, to be honest. I'm just going to say Garzo for the double. Why not?
You've only had an hour and a half to think about who the winner was going to be. So Garzo for Jack. And what about you, down in pit lane, Elliot?
Yeah, good question. I'm a bit annoyed that you've left me down in pit lane for an hour and a half and give me the last choice again for the second weekend in a row. Only joking, of course. I'm going to go for Oscar Gutierrez to win, be a little bit different. Obviously inexperienced in the MotoE class, but on the front row for the first time. I know he had a difficult race one, maybe a little too eager off the line and into turn one, and then made that mistake and the long lap penalty loop. But yeah, I'm going to go Oscar Gutierrez.
I like it. Let's just hope he doesn't get 4 long lap penalties this time around, because that would be rather unfortunate for Oscar. If he does indeed, it would certainly do the championship quite nicely as well, with Oscar on 137 points and Garzo at the head of it on 154. So if that does happen, it would close in nicely with only 2 rounds remaining in the championship chase in 2024. So then, time to get the game faces on. The visors go down, the tyre warmers come off, the mechanics clear off the grid and head back to their stations, and we will be racing in around 1 minute's time. Finally, it's been a long old time, hasn't it? We do appreciate your patience. If you are still with us watching on YouTube or wherever else in the world, thank you very much for sticking with us. And finally, with great pleasure, I can say we're about to bring you some racing action for the second time today in MotoE. Here we go then, under starters orders, the green flag waves at the back finally. It's been a long old time that we've been waiting to be able to say that. Watch Zaccone from pole position. Will he get the start? Oscar Gutierrez this time does not jump the start. That's great to see. And has he got the whole shot run on Zaccone? Watch him dive to the inside. Will he go wide this time as Hector Garzo, the race 1 winner, sweeps around the outside from the second row of the grid into second place. That's a brilliant start from Hector Garzo, as now the pole sitter Zaccone looks to fight back through turn 2, but he'll slot into 3rd for now.
Yeah, brilliant stuff from Garzo, nice and clean through turn number 1, I'm pleased to say. Jordi Torres slots into 5th ahead of Matteo Ferrari, who's had a steady start. Casadei is up a couple of positions into 7th, so the championship challenger is there as well. And I think there's been a couple of big movements for Andrea Mantovani, who's come through from 13th on the grid. He's 8th.
Well, you said about Manto that he was a bit of a wet weather specialist earlier, and certainly proving that in this first half a lap. It looks as though Spinelli has pinched through on his tech-free teammate Zaccone, so the pole sitter has been relegated down to 4th, and it might get worse for him as he's got the former World Cup winners here, Torres and Ferrari, clambering all over the back of him to pinch that 4th spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And Gutierrez really is putting the hammer down, trying to break the group apart early on this first lap. Oh, and Hector Garzo's managing to go with him and goes through, coming down the waterfall through the Ralph Waldman curve. That is brave stuff from the number 4 and shows the confidence that he has in these wet weather conditions on the first lap around. So a change of the lead, Garzo now out front. Yeah,
incredible first lap then from Hector Garzo, just seeming to do the business right now, isn't he, as it starts to get tense in the championship chase this season, as we see actually Zaccone falling off the back of Nicolas Spinelli now. We've got a front 3, a 6-wheeler at the front, breaking away at the end of the first lap.
Yeah, we do indeed, and Mantovani's managed to pick off Casadei. Casadei's had a bit of a moment there. You can see Zaccone is currently being attacked by Jordi Torres. Matteo Ferrari hanging in situ as well, and well, manages to stay in the middle of that group, does Zaccone. So Torres then up into 4th position now.
Good progress then from Jordi Torres, the 2-time World Cup winner, showing his mettle here, and it's about time as well, because it's been a long time since we've seen Jordi back at his best. As Kevin Zannoni, surely has he gone down. He's dropped 5 positions. Perhaps he maybe just made an error and went off into the gravel. But the former championship leader is down in 14th, and at this stage would only score 2 points.
Yeah, that's going to be a disastrous round then on the whole for Kevin Snoney. Obviously coming into this race injured, and I think the last thing when you're a bit beaten up is to have conditions like this where it's a real step into the unknown. You might not be willing to risk it just as much as you would if you were 100% physically fit. But look at this from Garzo. He really is putting some space into Oscar Gutierrez on this second lap of it here at the Sachsenring. He stretched his lead up from 0.3 of a second when they crossed the line. He's now nearly half a second up halfway around this lap. In fact, it's now 0.7 of a second, so Garzo is edging clear.
Yeah, he's absolutely checked out already, as now we see Spinelli getting a wriggle on and diving through on the rookie, the number 99 of Gutierrez. So up into second comes Spinelli, and that's a bit more like it, isn't it? Back on the podium for the first time since the second round of the season earlier today. And well, now he's got the bit between his teeth. Can he close in on Garzo? That's going to be a tough ask, as Garzo sets the fastest lap of the race on that opening flying lap, a 1:36.580.
Yeah, fantastic stuff from Garzo. Only 2 riders in the 1:36s on that particular lap. Garzo and Spinelli, unsurprisingly. Everyone else in the 37s or the 38s or maybe even the 140s, the likes of Tulovic, Finello and Manfredi, not quite getting on with these conditions in the early stages of this race. So for Garzo to be, nearly 4 seconds a lap faster than the likes of Tulovic at this point in the race is stunning.
You could just see there on the graphic in the bottom right hand of the screen just how smooth Casadei was having to be with his inputs. And look at this, we have got a race on now. Garzo is being hauled in by Nicola Spinelli. The number 29 is on his way, and he's slashed the advantage down to under 0.4 as they come through the second split.
Yeah, Spinelli is starting to rally here, and it's an impressive charge on lap 3. It looked as though Garzo was going to check out, but Spinelli keeping him pretty honest for the time being. Oscar Gutierrez just keeping in the mix as well, and Jordi Torres is actually gaining on the number 99 for third. Torres managed to get a third place at Assen, but it only came after Alessandro Zaccone was disqualified from race 1. He wanted to have a real podium, in his words, this weekend, and it looks as though he could well get his wish.
Yeah, let's check the lap times this time round, as indeed, as Neil says, Torres is on the charge and got the bit between his teeth as he sees the yellow speck, the number 99 Access MSI bike coming back towards him. Garzo and Spinelli trade fastest laps of the race. The only two, or no, not the only 2 riders in the 35s, because Torres joins them as well as a 35.7 for him. So some serious pace coming in from Jordi. That's a bit more like it from the 2-time World Cup winner.
Yeah, and a whole second faster than their previous lap times for Garzo and Spinelli. So they're doing some pretty impressive times out there in these conditions. Torres, though, certainly the coming man. If he can get through and pass Gutierrez, could he maybe join the lead group?
Well, it's worth saying that Friday morning, when it was wet here, Torres was quickest of all by about 0.8 of a second. So we probably should have seen this coming, absolutely, because Jordi is flying. There you can see it, 9.5 quicker than the rookie ahead of him. About to show him what a veteran does in these wet weather conditions on a MotoE machine. Will he do the move down into turn 8? It would be a brave one from there, but not close enough this time round.
Yeah, and it's safe to say that this is one of Jordi Torres' favourite tracks in the entire world. He's had a great record here in years gone by. Won his first Moto2 race here back in 2014, and also was a victor in the first MotoE race that we had at the Sachsenring last year. He's all over Gutierrez, and surely a move is incoming down at the bottom of the hill into turn 12.
Yeah, he got a great run down the Ralph Altman curve, the waterfall as it's more commonly known, but no, Gutierrez late on the brakes. Does he go wide? No, not at all. Covers it back for a late apex through the very long penultimate corner that we do have here in Sachsenring. And as we complete lap 4, this one is going to get tasty, as Jordi Torres does indeed chase down the number 99 of Gutierrez. Once again, Spinelli is just a bit quicker than Garzo, but you have to say Garzo is responding brilliantly to the pressure, and the gap at the front is around 0.7. He did eke it out in the previous lap.
Yeah, Incredible stuff from Garzo and Spinelli in this race so far. They're both lapping in the 1 minute 34s. No other rider is in the 34s. No other rider is even in the 1 minute 35s at the moment. The next quickest rider is Jordi Torres, a 1:36.1. I think it's safe to say that even if Torres does get past Gutierrez in the next couple of corners or so, he's not going to have enough to live with these two riders.
No, absolutely not. There you can see the gap on the left-hand side of the screen. The top two have cleared off by a relative country mile in the MotoE World Championship. 3.5 seconds clear as it stands, and I'm sure that will only extend as I carry on talking. So here we go then. Can Spinelli close in? Well, that's one question, but there's another question indeed, with Torres and Gutierrez going at it. Definitely Jordi is a fraction closer this time as he gets a little bit of a fight back from the rear tyre there as he applied the power to come back up the hill, and these never-ending left-handers, it must make you dizzy, this Sachsenring circuit. And now to unwind yourself as you dive down the waterfall. Torres surely is going to look to the inside, but he's going to have to be extremely late on the brakes to do that, but not this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Torres obviously was telling Elliott earlier in the broadcast he's been having problems all year with acceleration and top speed, not quite being able to get the best out of his package so far in 2024. And you can see there that he just didn't have the speed to even slipstream by Oscar Gutierrez. Another fastest lap again from Garzo.
Round of applause to you, Hector. You're doing absolutely fine work. Pinched another 10th back from Spinelli, and that's not easy to do at all. Once Spinelli has had his eyes set on a victory so far this year, pretty much every time he's taken it. Of course, he won the 3 of the first 4 races this season, and we thought, well, if he keeps doing that every round, it could be quite a boring championship, but it hasn't played out that way. But great to see him back on form here in Germany.
Absolutely, and the gap between the lead pair is proper yo-yoing up at the front. Garzo was about 7/10 clear of Spinelli. It was a little closer the previous lap, around 4/10, and it was extended up to 5. Thought Spinelli might have rallied ever so slightly in the first sector there. You can see Hector having a little bit of a bubble down at the bottom of the hill. And in fact, his lead is continuing to grow. So Garzo is just getting stronger as this race goes on. Seriously impressive stuff from the number 4.
Of course, the track will be drying out just a fraction. It's definitely not dry at all, as you can still see the spray kicking up off that Michelin rear wet tyre. But as it does, oh, big wobble and a shake there. Head shake for Hector Garzo as he dived down the waterfall. And for the first time, he's opened up that gap to over 1 second. And once again, Oscar Gutierrez extremely late on the brakes and just manages to hold off Jordi Torres for one more attempt.
Yeah, and this Torres is going to have a look into turn number 13, the final turn on this Sachsenring layout. Not quite, but he's getting decent drive on that particular occasion. Another fastest lap from Hector Garzo, and this time he was half a second faster than Nicolas Spinelli. His lead is now up to 1.2 seconds, so Garzo is making some serious headway.
Yeah, I think he's broke the back of it, to be honest. That's 1.2 seconds now and half a second quicker last time. A 1:34.4. Stunning stuff from Hector Garzo. He just seemed to have an aura about him this weekend. When we spoke to him at the start of the weekend, just seemed to know exactly what he wanted to do. And well, if he does come away from this with 2 race wins, he's going to be in prime position, as we only have 4 races to go after this in the 2024 championship. And Oscar Gutierrez, if he does have aspirations of taking that championship, which he surely does, he needs to hold off Torres, but that is an incredibly hard thing to do. We know the experience that Jordi has in this class, and he knows how to get the overtakes done, even when he's not quite got as much pace as the rider in front of him.
Yep, absolutely. Jordi Torres basically has nothing to lose. He's not in the championship fight this year, whereas Oscar Gutierrez most certainly is. Finds himself 4th in the championship at the moment. That's going to change somewhat because the likes of Casadei, Zanoni are having a tough race, you would have to say. Zanoni down in 13th. Casadei just hasn't really been able to make any sort of impact on the top 6, down in 9th. And Alessandro Zaccone back in 5th. He's just keeping it steady. And look at this, Torres has finally made it work.
So he has punched through then. He's demoted the rookie Oscar Gutierrez back to 4th place. But now the roles are reversed and he's got 1 lap to be able to hold on. Here is the move. Does he dive to the inside at the waterfall or just gets the run down the hill? We saw him be incredibly close there, and that is what did it for Jordi Torres. A little bit of a slide from the rear end for Gutierrez and Jordi's through. But now here comes back Oscar Gutierrez, and surely Torres around the outside at turn 1 to hold off. Have that, rookie. I'm the veteran here. We'll be seeing you on the podium.
Yeah, Jordi Torres wants that real podium on this final lap of the German Grand Prix. Hector Garzo, he's checked out, he's gone. He was a full second faster than Nicola Spinelli the last time around, so he just needs to cruise round and make sure that he makes it to the finish. He's going to have his third victory of the year in no time at all, but this is the battle that we want to keep our eyes on, and it looks as though Torres might have edged out a couple of crucial bike lengths in that second sector.
Of course, this was the place last year where Hector Garzo picked up his first ever MotoE victory in a race that was quite different to this. It started dry and then the rain started to fall before it was in time the red flagged with about 3 or 4 laps to go, but this time no such thing. After a long old delay, he's kept his focus and he's kept locked in, even if he is wiggling his way around this Sachsenring circuit, and he's only got 2 corners left to navigate where Hector Garzo will pick up his first ever double in the MotoE World Championship and launch himself into total control of the series as well. Don't forget now, Hector, as he rounds the final corner, gets it stood up. Fantastic work from Hector Garzo. He's done the double in Germany at his team's home race and takes total control of the championship lead as well. Expertly done as Spinelli takes his second podium of the day. All round good performance from him here on Saturday in Germany. And Jordi Torres gets his first proper podium of the season. Congratulations to Jordi. Great to see him back on the podium.
Yeah, absolutely. A welcome return to a real podium for Jordi Torres, and his second of the year. Brilliant stuff, and a good ride between him, a good fight between him and Oscar Gutierrez, which went in the number 81's favour. Good to see him congratulating Hector Garzo. Garzo was in a total class of his own for pretty much most of that race. At one point it looked as though Spinelli was the match of him, but the last half of that race, Garzo was able to just extend his advantage up and above 3 seconds. No one could live with him in the rain here at the Sachsenring.
Yeah, congratulations then to Hector Garzo. I'll tell you what, Neil, you said I had an hour and a half to think about who to go for a winning prediction. Well, I used the hour and a half very wisely, if I don't say so myself. I picked the winner.
Yeah, let's not pretend it wasn't just complete luck that made you fall upon, or stumble upon, I should say, the eventual winner. But great stuff from Garzo. He came into this weekend 11 points back of Casadei in the championship, and well, not quite sure of my maths right at the moment, but he's going to leave with a pretty commanding advantage, because yeah, Gutierrez, the next closest contender, in 4th, Casadei in 9th, and poor old Kevin Zanoni dropped down to 15th at the end. You could tell that Zanoni just was not feeling those conditions at all with that right knee injury, or sorry, the knee injury that he suffered yesterday, as well as to his wrist. So it's looking good for Garzo. It's looking good as well for someone like maybe even Spinelli, who could well have got himself back into the championship fight.
Can actually confirm that Hector Garzo will move himself onto 179 points, and it will still be Mattia Casadei up there in second place on 154, with Gutierrez now in third, only 4 points behind Mattia on 150, and then Kevin Zanoni there on 147, and Alessandro Zaccone now on 130. So Garzo with quite sizable advantage. What is that? 25-point lead. So yeah, a real turn up for the books for Garzo today. That's done his championship the world of good.
Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't say it's his to lose now, but it's kind of approaching that kind of territory for the Spaniard, you would have to say. Garzo, with just 100 points left in play after the summer break, is sitting very pretty indeed, with Casadei, Gutierrez, Zanoni really needing a pretty faultless run in those final 2 rounds of the year. As you say, a first ever double victory for Hector in this championship. That will taste extra sweet as well.
So then, Neil, do we have a new theory on who might be the world champion at the end of the year?
I mean, at the moment, you would be a bit of a fool to look past that rider there, wouldn't you? Before of Hector Garzo, but I think I would have had a different answer at the end of the previous round, and then a different answer after that. And yeah, probably after the round before that as well. So yeah. Who's to know which way it will go?
Yeah, it keeps on writing chapters, and we've no idea who the writer is because it must keep changing every weekend. Yeah, it's total chaos in the MotoE Championship chase in 2024. But what is not chaos is what Hector Garzo did today, both in the wet and in the dry. That is probably the best way to take your first ever double win, because doing it in both conditions, well, it probably just means a little bit more and shows just how good you were today compared to the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. Team manager Jürgen Ling down there in Park Ferme offering his congratulations to his rider, and of course Jürgen and his team, the Intact GP squad, they are German, so to score a double victory on home soil, we might not have a German rider, but the German team has taken the main spoils here in MotoE at their home race, which will definitely mean a lot to them and could well take them to a second Riders' Championship in this category. They obviously won it with Tommy Egerter 2 years ago. And Garzo looking pretty to repeat that feat as he shares a warm hug with Nicola Spinelli after the race. What about this though from Jordi Torres? Great to see him in Park Ferme, his second podium of the year, but the first time he's actually crossed the line in third place, and he's down there with Elliott.
Yeah, here's Jordi. First technical podium last weekend, but now you get to stand on it for real. How good does it feel to be back on the box?
Yeah, of course, return here. It's always special because Sachsenring is in my heart. This is my special track. But yes, I don't feel, the last part that we are the maximum effort as possible. But yes, I'm feeling good with the bike. The things were great, incredible. And yes, step by step we are more close, but yeah, that means that we are in the good way. But these two tracks that we are in the podium, and this is the first time we can celebrate. Yes, have a short straight, many corners, and we don't have too much space between corners, and this is good for me, for my riding style, and also for my speed. But anyway, we try to enjoy this moment and also prepare for the next round. And yeah, we'll see what happens.
Congrats, Jordi.
Thank you.
Congrats, Jordi, indeed. Great to see him back up on the podium after a tricky start to the year. Inconsistent, which is very unlike Jordi, but he won out in that entertaining duel with Oscar Gutierrez in the fight for third. And this was the moment when he took it, that moment for Gutierrez. I'm sure that got his heart racing up and above the level it was already operating at. That little bobble coming down through the Ralph Waldman curve, and that was just enough to give Jordi Torres the edge for third. And there is just something about this track which clicks for the Spaniard. Victor here, of course, last year. A good day at the office, you would have to say, for Nicola Spinelli. He's on the podium again, a third in race one, a second in race two, and he's with Elliott.
Yeah, Nicholas, 2 podiums here in the Sachsenring. You must be really pleased in tough conditions as well. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm very happy for the weekend because with the turn in the Parc Ferme, I'm very happy for the work with the team because we had 3 weeks very bad. We 6-0, and now but now it's very beautiful return. I'm happy for the team, for me, and for all my sponsors.
Great job, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you to Nicola Spinelli. It really is a podium or straw bills kind of approach, isn't it, for the number 29 this year? He has either been brilliant or, well, what's the opposite of brilliant?
Not so brilliant.
Not so brilliant, exactly. That's the broadcastable, I think, definition that I was looking for. But good to see Spinelli back there, clearly on his day, one of the fastest guys in this class. 6th in the championship now. And we are waiting to hear from the championship leader and the double victor here at the Sachsenring. You can see just in our shot there that Hector Garzo is waiting to speak to Elliott, and here he is. Let's hear from the man himself.
Yeah, Hector, a double race victory at the Sachsenring and the World Championship lead heading into the summer break. A pretty much perfect weekend.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have no words. I think this is only a feeling. We can just keep the rhythm of the feeling and just the vibe. We are leaders. We take both victories, so I cannot say nothing. I have a perfect bike in wet, in dry. I think we are doing a really good job. But well, let's take it easy. This is still long, so let's enjoy the summer break and try to come back even better than now.
Great job, Hector.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, fantastic job then to Hector Garzo. Jordi Torres just joins in the celebrations. Good friends those two are. And there you can see the steely laser focus from Garzo as he turns into the apex at turn 1. Brilliant work, you have to say, from Hector, and very much deserving of that 25 points of championship lead that he's got now. And that, of course, makes it 5 podiums on the spin for Hector now. Absolutely incredible consistency. And another thing of consistency as well that he's shown this year is only he and Eric Granado have qualified on the front 2 rows of the grid in every qualifying session this year as well. So he's not only getting it done in race trim, but getting it done in qualifying trim as well. And there you go, ×2 today, his first ever double. Congrats to that man.
Yeah, when you look back through the season so far, it's really only been Le Mans when he was on pole position, but crashed out of both races. It was the only round where it really did get away from him, but otherwise Garzo's been pretty much in the mix. He might not have been on the podium at the others. He was 4th and 5th in Barcelona, for example, but otherwise he was been at least in the top 5 in every round, with the exception of Le Mans. So decent consistency, the most consistent rider so far this year, you would have to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the points certainly do prove it as well, and there'll be some riders left seeking some inspiration to find that consistency back. Of course, Mattia Casadei being one of them. What must be going through his head right now? Came into the round as the championship leader, obviously came into the Assen round as championship leader as well. And, you know, for Casadei, 2 rounds where it was crucial for him to secure big points. Well, he's failed at both opportunities, unfortunately. Obviously, not all due to his own doing. Was caught up in that luckless incident at the first race in Assen just last weekend, with Mantovani just careering into the back of him through turn 1 and taking them both down. But since then, it's just been a little bit difficult for Mattia Casadei. And I mean, the weather conditions today certainly didn't help that one either. So hopefully we should have the riders coming out for the podium ceremony very, very shortly indeed, to collect their trophies, spray a little bit of the Prosecco, some well-deserved Prosecco as well, after what's been quite an eventful and long afternoon for them, sat down there in pit lane, and then eventually getting underway with that 8-lap race. And it's a pleasure to say that for the first time properly this season, the lovable Jordi Torres does indeed come out onto the podium to accept a well-deserved 3rd place there, after finally getting that move done on Oscar Gutierrez to knock him back to 4th. And Nicolas Spinelli, he'll be chuffed with his day's work, 3rd and a 2nd place, but there'll be no one more chuffed than Hector Garzo, his first ever double victory in the MotoE World Championship, and he does it at his team's home round 2. I'm sure there might just be a couple of celebratory beers tonight, and also tomorrow night in the NTAC GP tent. And you certainly can't blame them for that, indeed. Alessio Passe delivers the trophies to the 3rd and 2nd place finishers. Jordi's he's got plenty of those trophies, that is for sure. Got a bunch of them at home, I'm sure, on the mantelpiece. And for Nicolas Spinelli, that's another one to add to his collection of 2, as that begins to grow in just his 2nd season in the MotoE World Championship. But I feel that this trophy being handed over now might just be the most prized possession in Hector Garzo's trophy cabinet, as it is the one that secures him firmly at the top of the championship standings, and perhaps you'd say even with a couple of fingers on the championship trophy. But it's a long way to go, still 100 points on offer. So the Spanish national anthem rings out here in Germany, which perhaps might be a rather touchy national anthem to sound out here after last night in the football. But I'm sure that the Intact GP team won't mind indeed, as their rider has stood on top of the podium twice today, as Jordi firmly sprays him in the face with the Prosecco. But I'm sure Hector won't mind at all. So then, of course, we turn our eyes now to the next round, where it is indeed Austria. But first, we've got a bit of a summer break coming up. A chance for all the riders to recharge their batteries, even for me, Neil and Elliot as well. But as you can see there, confirmation of what just happened in front of our eyes, as we finally did get racing for the second race of the day in MotoE, with Garzo taking the victory again, doubling up here on Saturday with Spinelli and Torres. Gutierrez, a solid performance from him to take that fourth after a dramatic first race of the day. Unfortunately, it wasn't the day that Lukas Tulovic, the home hero, wanted. He finishes 10th in the second race here, but still points nonetheless. But the biggest thing there, Kevin Zaccone, riding injured, suffering with his physical condition, only managing to muster one single point in that second race. In terms of the championship, then there you can see it is 25 points is the lead, a full race wins worth, not bad at all. And Oscar Gutierrez there in third now, with Zaccone and Zaccone fourth and fifth, and even Spinelli actually closing in on his teammate just behind. Dynavolt Intact GP, well, there you go. They'll be very happy with today's performance, as they do vault themselves into the lead of the team's championship at their home round by 10 points clear from the tech-free e-racing squad and the Open Bank Aspar team there in third position.
So then, the highlights. It nearly came 2 hours late, but we did have some action finally at a wet Sachsenring, and it was a bit of a lottery going down into the first turn, with Oscar Gutierrez making the turn. Hector Garzo showing well around the outside, jumping up from fourth, with the two Tech 3 riders of Spinelli and Zaccone just behind. Jordi Torres slotting into fifth position, but everyone made it through, thankfully, around that first lap.
Then we saw the Tech 3 teammates go to war on each other, as Spinelli turned it lovely up the inside of Zaccone, and Zaccone was then in trouble from riders behind too. Garzo punched his way past the rookie to take the lead at the end of lap one, and then for the rookie, Oscar Gutierrez, it only got worse as Spinelli, charging through in the early laps, managed to pinch into second and would set about closing in race leader Garzo. Torres, try as he might, just couldn't get through on Oscar Gutierrez in the first few attempts, that was at least, but he did eventually find his way through.
You can just see a bit of visibility issues for the number 81 in this fight. Up front though, Garzo was managing to pull clear of Spinelli, little by little, lap by lap, and Torres really did give it a good go around the outside of turn one on this particular occasion. This was Gutierrez trying to react to a previous move, but Garzo was pretty much unbeatable in the final laps, and he managed to bring home the bacon 3.4 seconds clear off Spinelli for his second win of the day, his third win of the year, and enough for a 25-point advantage in the championship. That's it for MotoE here at the Sachsenring. It's been an action-packed round 6 of the championship, and we're off now on our summer break. Join us again in Austria for round number 7.